Chapter 178. The aura of the evil gradually moved farther away. After a distance, it suddenly quivered, and the black fog dissipated bit by bit, leaving behind a silver figure. It was a mighty and majestic silver wolf. Its silver fur all over its body glistened, but some black fog remained between the fur. Its scarlet eyes were as fierce as that of a wild beast. After taking a few steps forward, it fainted and fell on the ground with a heavy thud. On the other side, Yi Qingtang looked at the lifeless Wuxia beside her legs, and her lips tugged upwards into a smile. Wuxia would never have dreamt that he would die from this scary force one day. Yi Qingtang touched her chin, and took out the dagger on her waist, chopping off Wuxia's head. This Wuxia was a person on the assassination roll. Although he was not ranked highly, this head could be exchanged for many Xianming points if brought back to the sect. At that thought, Yi Qingtang really felt that the aura of the evil from just now was a great help to her. However, she did not dare to stay for long as well. God knows when that aura of the evil would appear again. Even Wuxia did not have any ability to fight back. If it was her, she would only die earlier. Then, Yi Qingtang was unwilling to stay any longer and immediately fled. The lava tree forest turned into a desolate field after the aura of the evil passed through it. The vitality of the lava trees was sucked away, and yellowed leaves fell onto the ground. Just by walking in the place where the aura of the evil had extended, she felt a chill inside her. Before long, Yi Qingtang suddenly saw that there was a figure not far away from her. There was a huge silver wolf with a dangerous black fog lingering around it. Yi Qingtang instinctively wanted to leave, but when she looked at the silver wolf which clenched its teeth in pain, she hesitated. In her previous life, Yi Qingtang once saved a small wolf while she was on the run. At that time, she was alone, and everyone was after her life. She often felt real loneliness, but that small wolf was the only companion by her side during her most difficult times. But ultimately, that small wolf was cruelly killed because it protected her. Up to this day, that bloody scene remained in Yi Qingtang's mind like a disease. Unexpectedly, Yi Qingtang spun on her heels and walked towards that silver wolf. The black fog that hovered around the silver wolf radiated an evil aura, and was exactly the same as the black fog on Wuqia's body when he died. This silver wolf was possibly the aura of the evil's target as well, but survived by chance. Looking at the silver wolf, Yi Qingtang's mind could not help but overlap its image with the small wolf that she once raised. After taking a deep breath, she lowered her body and placed her hands on the silver wolf. The heart of the demon god within Yi Qingtang was a weapon which could absorb all the aura of the evil on earth, and the rumored demon god was even able to control all the aura of the evil. As Yi Qingtang's hands were placed against the wolf, the aura of the evil which lingered around the silver wolf was slowly absorbed by the heart of the demon god within her. Upon looking at the majestic silver wolf under Yi Qingtang's hands, the little black ball hidden her body went crazy. Why is he here? Chapter 179. Musu's face was dotted with sweat beads. As he sped forward, his eyes swept across every inch of his surroundings. At this instant, Musu was so anxious that his heart was about to explode. "Your Highness, where did you go? You must stay safe at this time." Musu was one of the few people who knew that Han Songming was the demon god. But exactly because of this, Musu was even more worried. His Highness had lost the heart of the demon god, and could not control the aura of the evil within his body at every moment. There was always that one period of time when the aura of the evil in his Highness' body would explode out. And because he could not control the aura, he would turn into an animal all the way until the collective entity of the aura of the evil was dissipated everywhere. Previously, Han Songming calculated the timing when the aura of the evil would explode. Thus, he came to this giant rock canyon, which rarely had any people. Yet, unexpectedly, this resulted in the eruption of the magma beneath the giant rock canyon, and it was during this chaos that Musu lost trace of Han Songming. At this very instant, Musu only thought of finding Han Songming as soon as possible. The aura of the evil's collective entity would not remain condensed for too long, and when it dissipated, Han Songming would enter an extremely frail state. Then, he could only remain in an animal form. If anyone else saw this, God knows what would happen. Wuxia dashed throughout, and faintly sensed that the aura of the evil ahead of him was increasingly stronger. But when he reached the place, he was so stunned that he was rooted to the ground as though he was struck by lightning. 10 meters away, an exquisite figure was half kneeling in front of a huge silver wolf. Her small fair hands were gently placed against the silver wolf's smooth fur, and the aura of the evil lingering around the silver wolf was sucked away by those hands bit by bit. The worried expression on Wuxia's face dropped at that very moment. Yi Qingtang. Why was she here? Yi Qingtang did not sense Wuxia's appearance at all, as she only focused on absorbing the aura of the evil away from the silver wolf's body, using the heart of the demon god. As the aura of the evil was slowly absorbed away, the silver wolf's shiny fur appeared before Yi Qingtang. Yi Qingtang praised herself. Because of that small wolf, she had an unknown love for all wolves, and she could not keep her hands away, especially from that fluffy fur. As such, she had offended many wolves. However, she had never seen such a plump, sturdy, and shiny wolf. It is really so pretty. Yi Qingtang originally decided to leave after saving the wolf, but looking at the tempting wolf before her, greed started to fill her big eyes. This wolf should be a wild wolf, right? It probably did not have an owner. Even if she carried it away, no one would care, right? At this thought, a bold thought rose in her mind. Although she already had a little lightning dragon, it was still small and would not have any combat power in a short while. But this wolf was different. It had such a strong build, and it should have very good combat power if she raised it. Yi Qingtang thought hard of how to bring this ownerless silver wolf away. She narrowed her eyes and looked around her surroundings. After ensuring that there was no one around, she swallowed down a few elixirs which temporarily raised her strength, and opened her arms to carry the silver wolf horizontally. Not far away, Wuxia saw His Highness being carried bridal style by Yi Qingtang, and almost fainted right there and then. Chapter 180. His Highness was being carried, and it was even by a girl in bridal style. Wuxia simply did not dare to believe the scene he witnessed. But just when Wuxia was shocked that his legs turned into jelly, Yi Qingtang had long carried His Highness and ran away like a wisp of vapor. Wuxia was violently alarmed as he dashed after her, with a broken-down expression. Lady Yi, put him down. Put His Highness down ASAP. If you like wolves, I can even catch a pack of them for you. But put down His Highness, please. On the other side, Yi Qingtang's annoyance over all sorts of accidents in the giant rock canyon was completely gone because she gained such a precious wolf. She was so happy carrying the sleeping wolf that her feet were as light as feathers. The giant rock canyon's magma eruption gradually stabilized. This time, Yi Qingtang did not encounter any more irritable incidents, as she carried the wolf cheerfully and searched for her senior brothers. What Yi Qingtang was unaware of was that halfway through her journey, the wolf's originally tightly shut eyes opened, and a violent murderous aura rushed out from its eyes as though it wanted to summon an apocalypse. However, in the next second, the silver wolf saw a familiar face and at the same time, felt a cold air which continuously flowed from her chest area and slowly swallowed the uncontrollable aura of the evil within him. The brutal expression in its eyes disappeared as it fell into a trance in an instant. Yi Qingtang, don't be scared. I won't abandon you. It heard the girl's ever-gentle comforting words as her soft hands lightly caressed its head, ears. The silver wolf wanted to move, but discovered a fact that stunned him. At this moment, he was being carried in the arms of a tiny girl. Perhaps continue pretending to unconscious was better. At the entrance of the giant rock canyon, Gu Yanxiu and the rest looked fearfully at the canyon, which was swallowed by lava. As they saw the temperature of the magma decreasing, and the crimson patch being slowly covered by an ash black, they could not help but regard the power of Mother Nature with reverence. Is everyone here? Gu Yanxiu took a glance at the other disciples. While the eruption was sudden, it was good that Yi Qingtang warned them in time, and they were pretty skilled, so all of them escaped out. Qin Huan looked around, and his expression turned ugly. Junior sister Yi. 9 out of 10 of them had returned, and only Yi Qingtang was missing. At that time, everyone's expressions turned extremely ugly. Junior brother Qin, Stay here and keep a lookout. Junior brother Meng and I will search nearby. Junior sister Yi is sharp and intelligent, and would probably not have any accidents, Gu Yanxiu said with a frown. Meng Xing nodded immediately. But just when they were ready to leave and search for Yi Qingtang, a worried-looking Qin Huan suddenly saw a figure running towards them at high speed. Junior sister Yi? The worry on his face was frozen the instant he saw Yi Qingtang, and surprise subsequently filled his eyes as he watched Yi Qingtang dashing towards them with a big unknown thing in her hands. Senior brother Qin, all of you are out already? Yi Qingtang obediently stood before her senior brothers while carrying her precious wolf. The group of them who were initially full of worry for Yi Qingtang immediately gathered forward. But just when they noticed that Yi Qingtang not only escaped, but also carried such a huge silver wolf in her arms, a look of horror appeared on their faces. Chapter 181. Yi Qingtang had a small frame, but the creature in her arms was so magnificent. The contrast between the two was striking. Junior sister Yi, this wolf. Qin Huan wanted to say something but stopped, and his eyes had a complicated expression. I picked it up on my way back. Yi Qingtang's eyes immediately smiled blissfully once she talked about the wolf. Everyone did not know what to feel. They were chased by the lava throughout, and had to run like dogs. But Yi Qingtang was another level. Not only did she escape by herself, she even carried such a huge wolf back. This little junior sister was rather fierce. This wolf seems quite special. I have never seen a silver wolf before, Gu Yanxiu said as he forced himself to stay composed. His junior sister had done many shocking things already. Right, Yi Qingtang's widened her bright eyes which were filled with pride and said, I have never seen one before as well. At first, I suspected whether it was a demonic beast, but did not see any demonic beast aura on its body. Perhaps it's a special breed. The certain demon god who pretended to faint. Special breed? Qin Huan touched his chin as he sized up that silver wolf. Just seeing Yi Qingtang's spirited look, he already guessed that his junior sister was intending to raise this wolf. Shifting his gaze back to the wolf's blinding fur, Qin Huan also thought that while the wolf was not conscious, it was more majestic the more he looked at it. And perhaps, this was a good thing. Junior sister Yi, you're really lucky. I see that this wolf is pretty good, Qin Huan said as he reached out to touch the wolf. Suddenly, an undetectable deathly cold air radiated around the silver wolf, and a murderous aura filled the air. But just when Qin Huan stretched out his hand, Yi Qingtang immediately took a step back while carrying the silver wolf, and shouted at Qin Huan with a protective look. Mine! The demon god's heart was very complicated. The murderous aura subsequently vanished into thin air. When Qin Huan looked at his hand hanging in the air, and then looked at Yi Qingtang's protective stance, his lips could not help but twitch. Okay, yours. I will not snatch with you. Qin Huan dropped his hand helplessly, and could not help but quietly think to himself. Why did he not see that his little junior sister had such a childish side to her? It was just a touch. Why did she have to be so stingy? She had already given him the exorbitant fire-resistant soft armor, but could not even let him touch a single hair of the wolf. Yi Qingtang lifted her chin and hugged the silver wolf more tightly. The image of the little wolf's miserable death from her previous life was still etched in her mind. She instinctively protected the silver wolf in her arms tightly. Qin Huan's mood fell to the bottom, since he could not touch the wolf, and was even glared at by Yi Qingtang. On the other hand, Gu Yanxiu and the rest were elated at the sight. They felt that this little junior sister was scarily powerful previously, and was completely not like her age. But now she acted a little spoiled like that of a teenage girl. It is not easy to ride a horse while carrying a wolf. Junior brother Meng, and I will look for a carriage from the town nearby, Gu Yanxiu said. Thank you, two senior brothers, Yi Qingtang said with a smile. Gu Yanxiu and Meng Sheng were about to leave, but felt that something was off suddenly. Their attention was completely attracted by that silver wolf in Yi Qingtang's arms previously, and only now did they notice there was actually a huge cloth bag hung on her waist. Something circular was in that bag, and it was even dripping with blood. Chapter 182. Junior Sister Yi, is this a snack you prepared for this wolf? Qin Huan said and pointed to that bloody cloth bag. Yi Qingtang looked down and burst out laughing. No, this is Wu Qi's head. Everyone's jaw dropped to the ground. Wu Qi. You're not talking about that Wu Qi on the assassination roll, right? Qin Huan's lips twitched and felt that this news was even more explosive than the wolf. Yi Qingtang nodded obediently. Gasps instantly filled the air. The 9 of them widened their eyes as they looked at the beautiful girl with a scared expression, as though they were looking at a monster. They were more or less aware of Wu Qi's abilities. Although he was not the strongest, he was not someone that could be independently killed by an outer sect disciple like them. In the end, not only did Yi Qingtang pick up a silver wolf, she even easily chopped off Wu Qi's head. Everyone's feelings were extremely complicated for a moment. Looking at everyone's expression, Yi Qingtang realized that they might have misunderstood. I met him on the way, but he had some accident and already was dead, so I conveniently cut his head off. It was unwise for Yi Qingtang to mention the aura of the evil. After all, the aura of the evil was too powerful. The less trouble the better. Hearing Yi Qingtang's words, everyone slowly let out a sigh of relief. A natural disaster hit this giant rock canyon today, and it could be that Yi Qingtang had the opportunity to cut his Wu Qi's head off, because he encountered a high-level demonic beast that was escaping. Although she did not kill him independently, there was really nothing to say about her luck. Ahem. We will look for a carriage first. Gu Yanxiu cleared his throat and said. Then, he and Meng Sheng rode the horses that they left outside the canyon previously, and headed nearby to look for a carriage. On the other hand, Yi Qingtang and the rest rested outside the canyon. Yi Qingtang sat on a large rock and looked at the silver wolf, which was still in a deep sleep in her arms. She could not help but worry whether the wolf was injured in other areas. Thus, she carefully held the wolf's paw and checked carefully. After inspecting, she did not find any other wounds and finally sighed in relief. However, it is so nice to touch. Yi Qingtang became addicted to touching it. Her tiny hands caressed the wolf all over, as though they were stuck onto the wolf's body, and she looked extremely blissful. This fur was more comfortable than any of the wolves she touched before. The certain demon god who pretended to faint was completely frozen, because someone continuously took advantage of him. Mu Su had chased up since a long time ago, but when he saw that Yi Qingtang met up with a group of Xianling sect disciples, it was inconvenient for him to appear. He could only quietly look at His Highness being carelessly touched all over in Yi Qingtang's arms from a distance away. He felt very complicated. Extremely complicated. Mu Su pondered if he should find a chance to save His Highness, but thinking from another angle, it was even more suitable for His Highness to remain beside Yi Qingtang given his current condition. After all, the heart of the demon god within Yi Qingtang was the key to controlling the aura of the evil. If His Highness could be near the heart of the demon god, the uncontrolled aura of the evil in his body would be eased. At that thought, Mu Su quietly kept his leg back. The moment Mu Su thought of His Highness' unbearable technique in picking up girls, he instantly felt that letting His Highness follow Yi Qingtang in this form was good as well. Your Highness, you must make use of this opportunity and get along well with Lady Yi. I can only help you up to here. Chapter 183. Just when Mu Su was proud of his wittiness, his face suddenly froze. That is not right. His Highness is in animal form right now, and Lady Yi is completely unaware of His Highness' identity. How are they going to get along? Human beast. Mu Su suddenly sensed that his thoughts were very dangerous, and immediately decided to bring His Highness back first. But when Mu Su turned around, and was about to turn into a wolf, he saw Gu Yanxiu and Meng Sheng had already brought a carriage over, and Yi Qingtang carried the silver wolf up the carriage. That carriage quickly disappeared right before Mu Su's eyes. Mu Su went crazy. Yi Qingtang sat in the carriage while hugging the wolf, and other senior brothers rode on their hoses on the way back. Meng Sheng was perhaps guilty for suspecting Yi Qingtang, and thus took on the role of the coachman, and even helped Yi Qingtang to hang the bloody bag containing Wu Qi's head outside the carriage. There were some obstacles in this journey, but everyone returned safely. A line of them headed back to Xianling's sect in a mighty formation. They only wanted to return to the sect as early as possible, turn in the mission, and exchange for Xianming points to continue in their cultivation. Perhaps the day was too tiring. Yi Qingtang leaned against the silver wolf and fell into a deep sleep throughout the bumpy journey. In the next instant, after Yi Qingtang fell into a deep sleep and her breathing was stable, the wolf suddenly opened its tightly shut eyes and turned his head a little to look at Yi Qingtang, who fell asleep on its body, with a complicated expression. A black fog suddenly floated out of Yi Qingtang's chest and slowly formed into a little black ball. The little black ball shuttled to the front of the silver wolf, and it could not stop moving its round body. Anyone could tell that it was agitated at this very instant. Wow, wow, wow. Would-be father, you're finally taking action. I still looked down on you previously, and did not expect that you would be so amazing this time. The little black ball happily bounced about while looking at the silver wolf. As early as when its mother met the silver wolf, the little black ball already knew that the other party was its would-be father. Who would have thought that would-be father was so witty? He discovered that mother liked wolves and knew how to give her what she liked. This was much more reliable than before. The silver wolf watched the little black ball with cold eyes, which were devoid of emotion. However, the little black ball blabbered on happily, as if it completely did not sense the silver wolf's indifference. But I keep thinking that there seems to be something wrong with your appearance. Is that taste for a human beast a little too? Before the little black ball finished its sentence, the silver wolf suddenly launched its paw at the little black ball. The little black ball, which was a conscious being, could only be touched by the demon god. And this paw caused its palm-sized body to knock into all areas in the carriage. In just the blink of an eye, the little black ball, whose head was spinning from the collision, fell in front of the silver wolf. It wanted to float up dizzily, but was pressed on the ground with the silver wolf's paw. Boo-hoo! The little black ball wanted to cry. Its would-be father was so violent, and it was impossible for its tiny body to escape from that huge paw. The silver wolf looked at the little black ball coldly, and flipped its paw to kill off the little black ball's voice. Then, the silver wolf shifted its eyes, looked at Yi Qingtang sleeping soundly on its body, and quietly continued to pretend to be unconscious in the carriage. While that little black ball, whose state worse off than being dead, was in despair. Boo-hoo-hoo, is it too late to change a father? Chapter 184. The journey back was safe and stable. On the way back, everyone regained their energy, and the condition of the wound on Qin Huan's arm improved. In the blink of an eye, everyone returned to Xianling's sect. Yi Qingtang was very gloomy about one thing though. That silver wolf was in deep sleep throughout the journey, and did not show any signs of consciousness. But it did not have a single drop of water over the past few days, which really worried Yi Qingtang. It was not easy to pick up such a handsome wolf, and if it was starved to death, who would she go to cry to? Luckily, although the wolf did not ingest anything, it did not look weary at all, and its fur was as shiny as before. Yi Qingtang then finally sighed as emotions overcame her. Indeed, animals like wolves should still be appropriately fat for them to be able to withstand a drain in energy. When they reached Xianling's sect, Yi Qingtang insisted on personally carrying the silver wolf into the sect. During that period of time, Qin Huan and the rest wanted to help as they saw her short limbs, but were all rejected by Yi Qingtang, as though she was protecting it from thieves, causing all the senior brothers to feel extremely complicated. This little junior sister's love for wolves was quite strong. When Yi Qingtang returned to her room, Su Wan and Lin Long were not around. She nimbly laid the unconscious silver wolf on her bed, and touched its fur without bearing to let go. After I submit the mission, I'll find someone to take a look at you. Wait for me, Yi Qingtang said to the silver wolf very earnestly. The certain someone who continued pretending to be unconscious felt very complicated. Yi Qingtang settled the silver wolf, and immediately headed to the rewards pavilion with Wu Qi's head. The team mission with Gu Yanqia's team was to be submitted by Gu Yanqiu, and the obtained Xianming points had to be divided amongst all the participants, while this head that Yi Qingtang had in her hand was all hers. Yi Qingtang walked towards the rewards pavilion in a good mood. She did not have any idea how many Xianming points Wu Qi's head was worth, but according to the assassination roll, the bare minimum amount would not be lower than a 3-digit number. If she could exchange the head for so many Xianming points, Yi Qingtang's subsequent efficiency and cultivation in the sect would really be doubled. Just as Yi Qingtang hummed a song and walked through the outer sect, her agile figure fell into the eyes of someone from not far away. Senior Brother Yun, I am still not too familiar with the swordplay that the warden taught yesterday. Can you teach me one more time? Su Wan lifted her exquisitely made-up face and looked at Yun Shu beside her, but suddenly realized that Yun Shu's eyes seemed to be attracted by something. She could not help but look up curiously in the direction of Yun Shu's gaze. But this look completely caused the smile on her face to freeze. Was that figure walking past from a distance away not Yi Qingtang, who left the outer sect for half a month? The moment Su Wan saw Yi Qingtang, her heart skipped a beat instinctively. Junior Sister Yi is back? Yun Shu could not help but smile as he looked at Yi Qingtang's back view. But in Su Wan's eyes, that thoughtless smile was more disturbing than ever. Ever since Yi Qingtang left the outer sect, Su Wan abandoned all previous reservations and searched for an excuse to find Yun Shu every day. It was as though she completely replaced Yi Qingtang's position as the person around Yun Shu. Yun Shu was good-natured and not good at rejecting people's requests. Su Wan succeeded time over time, and in just half a month's time, rumors about the two of them started to spread within the outer sect. Yun Shu had never put it to heart and tried to explain a few times, but Su Wan told to him to brush it off using the excuse that as long as they had nothing going on between them, it would eventually be proven to others. Little did anyone know that this outcome was exactly what Su Wan wanted. Chapter 185. Su Wan was confident that she could conquer Yun Shu bit by bit, but she never thought that Yi Qingtang would come back so quickly. She originally thought that Yi Qingtang would take at least half a month before returning, but seeing her again now made her furious already. However, Su Wan was very smart to not show this anger on her face, and could only hide away all the hatred in her eyes as she followed Yun Shu's gaze. She said gently, I have not returned to the room today, and didn't know that Junior Sister Yi came back. Then, Su Wan looked at Senior Brother Yun's handsome side profile and smiled faintly. Senior Brother Yun kept worrying about Junior Sister Yi's safety all this time. Now, it seems that Junior Sister Yi returned safely, and you don't need to worry anymore. Yun Shu chuckled and shook his head. She is young, so I was a little worried. Now that she returned safely, my heart is naturally at ease. Yun Shu's voice had a hint of laughter, and every word was filled with concern for Yi Qingtang, piercing Su Wan's heart like a silver needle. She secretly clenched her fists that were hidden in her sleeves, and tried to maintain the sweet and gentle expression on her face. Senior Brother Yin has a good nature and everyone knows it. However, Junior Sister Yi went on the mission together with other senior brothers. Junior Sister Yi was born pretty, and those senior brothers would naturally take more care of her. You worry too much already. Su Wan's neither harsh nor light words had needles hidden in them. Not only did she pick up the fact that Yi Qingtang did not go on the mission with Yun Shu, she even emphasized her beautiful appearance and close interactions with other senior brothers. After Yun Shu heard her, he only gave a brief smile and did not put it to heart. It's good that she's back. If you meet her when you return, do tell her to find me. The warden taught quite a lot of things over the past few days, and I have prepared a set for her. Jealousy and hatred flashed across Su Wan's eyes. Yi Qingtang was not in the outer sect for the past half-month, but Yun Shu actually thought about Yi Qingtang for everything. On what basis? Even though she was clearly the one staying by senior brother Yun's side during this period of time. I got it. I will tell Junior Sister Yi when I return, Su Wan said as she forcefully suppressed the unwillingness in her heart. Yun Shu nodded and did not say anything more. On the other side, Yi Qingtang reached the rewards pavilion in no time, and went up the stairs directly. There were not many people in the rewards pavilion at that time. When Yi Qingtang was handing in the head, she coincidentally met Gu Yanqiu and Qin Huan, who were submitting the mission as well. Junior sister Yi, you're finally willing to leave that precious silver wolf of yours now. Qin Huan could not help but joke with Yi Qingtang when he saw her. Over the past few days they witnessed how overprotective she was. Yi Qingtang raised her eyebrows and simply did not bother arguing with the likes of him. Gu Yanqiu, who was standing aside, let out a laugh. At the same time, the warden in charge of verifying the mission entered the reward for killing the level 6 giant lizard into Gu Yanqiu's bracelet. In Xianling's sect, every disciple had a bracelet which recorded the number of Xianming points they had. Gu Yanqiu looked at the Xianming points on her bracelet and smiled at Yi Qingtang. It's good that you're here, junior sister Yi. You can take your share of Xianming points. Yi Qingtang directly raised her hand with the bracelet without saying anything. Gu Yanqiu immediately transferred Yi Qingtang's 60+ Xianming points onto her bracelet. This is still a small amount. The head in your hand is then the big one. Gu Yanqiu chuckled as he looked at Yi Qingtang. If other new disciples obtained 60+ Xianming points in their first month, it was already considered a huge amount. But this 60 over points were really nothing compared to Wu Qi's head in Yi Qingtang's hand. Chapter 186. Junior sister Yi, are you still willing to come with us if there are any missions in the future? At that instant, Gu Yanqiu could not help but invite Yi Qingtang. Other outer sect disciples who came to submit their missions looked over in their direction because of Gu Yanqiu's words. Gu Yanqiu had a good reputation in the outer sect, and his team missions had the highest completion rate. Many disciples wanted to join his team, but Gu Yanqiu was stricter in picking teammates, and it was very difficult for him to look at ordinary disciples. However, Gu Yanqiu sent out a second mission invitation to a new disciple. What was going on? Everyone was sure that she was a new disciple when they took a look at her. They were very surprised as to why Gu Yanqiu would favor her so much. Yi Qingtang pondered for a moment and smiled. I don't intend to take on any more rewarded missions this month. I'll tell senior brother Gu when I feel like taking on any missions. After turning in Wu Qi's head, her Xianming points should last her for a period of time. Increasing her skills in the shortest time possible was then the key. The surrounding disciples could not help but widen their eyes when they saw that Yi Qingtang actually rejected Gu Yanqiu's invitation in public, and suspected whether there was anything wrong with their ears. In the outer sect, there were so many people who wanted to go on a team mission with Gu Yanqiu, but did not have the opportunity to. But Gu Yanqiu already took the initiative to invite Yi Qingtang, and she actually rejected it straight up without thinking. Was this little junior sister an idiot? Everyone began to look at Yi Qingtang incredulously. Gu Yanqiu was, however, not shocked. He knew that Yi Qingtang was a girl with her own views. All right, just find me or Qin Huan when you are free. It was already shocking for Gu Yanqiu to be rejected, but after being rejected, Gu Yanqiu was not at all repelled, and even spoke so nicely to her. Everyone was a little muddle-headed at that moment. Since when was Gu Yanqiu so nice to talk to? Why had they not seen it before? You can hurry on with whatever you have. I have to distribute the Xianming points to Meng Sheng and the rest. I'll contact you next time. Gu Yanqiu waved a hand to Yi Qingtang and led Qin Huan out of the rewards pavilion. With Gu Yanqiu's departure, everyone stared at Yi Qingtang even more boldly and openly. Although they did know how much the reward for Gu Yanqiu's mission was, rewarded missions that Gu Yanqiu would look at would not be too bad. But Gu Yanqiu said that the reward for this mission was small, and that this little junior sister had an even bigger mission in her hands. Everyone's curiosity was piqued uncontrollably as they stretched their necks to look at the cloth bag in Yi Qingtang's hand. I am here to submit a mission. Yi Qingtang was long familiar with the set way of the rewards pavilion, as she handed the cloth bag into the warden's hand. That warden looked at Yi Qingtang confusedly. Why did he not remember that this young lady came to take on a mission before? But when the warden untied the bag that Yi Qingtang handed over, expressions of shock suddenly appeared on his face. The warden looked up in surprise. In the rewards pavilion, the only mission that did not need to be taken on in advance was killing a villain on the assassination roll. He had managed the rewards pavilion for many years and clearly remembered all the faces of those villains on the assassination roll, since a long time ago. The thing in the open bag was clearly the head of Wuxia, a villain on the assassination roll. Chapter 187. The disciples became even more curious after seeing the warden's expression and looked towards that cloth bag. Once they saw the bloody head, they were all dumbfounded. What kind of mission needed her to hand in a head? Other than the assassination roll, they really could not think of anything else. However, looking at the young face of the new disciple, there was no way they would believe that such a new and young girl could behead anyone on the assassination roll. However, did you kill him? The warden's eyes were slightly shocked as he looked at the beautiful girl in front of him. Yi Qingtang beamed. I did not notice how much the reward is for him. I'll have to trouble Senior to give me some guidance. Upon listening to her words, the warden accepted that the head was chopped off by Yi Qingtang. His eyes softened and said after pausing a while, 376 Xianming points. 376. The curious outer sect disciples' jaws dropped upon hearing the warden's words. A head could be exchanged for over 300 Xianming points? Other than a villain on the assassination roll, whose head would be worth so much? Yi Qingtang was very calm though. She knew that Wu Qi's name was not too big, and thus, it was worth less than other priceless heads on the roll. But over 300 points plus the 60 plus points from Gu Yanxiu made a total of over 400 Xianming points, which was already enough for her to spend freely. Please help me exchange for the points then, Senior. Yi Qingtang lifted her hand with a smile, and her eyes glistened as she watched huge quantities of Xianming points being slid onto her bracelet. This scene made all the surrounding disciples stare wide-eyed with their mouths open as they suspected if they saw wrongly until they recognized the human head. That head seems to be Wu Qi's. Someone mumbled, and this fell into everyone's ears. In a moment, everyone looked at Yi Qingtang. Was as though they were looking at a monster. Was this a joke? A new disciple could actually chop off Wu Qi's head. Had they gone crazy or had the world gone crazy? Yi Qingtang did not bother with their reactions. After all the Xianming points reached her hand, she thanked the warden and left the rewards pavilion with a bright smile. The warden looked at that head placed on the table with complicated feelings. After storing the head away, he wrote a few words on the file beside. Yi Qingtang beheaded Wu Qi. After he was done writing, he felt that something was wrong and immediately found an assistant to send this file out. If he did not remember wrongly, Yi Qingtang should be a disciple who just entered this month. Such results in just half a month. This disciple is not simple. Apart from providing rewarded missions for disciples, one could find out other disciples' skills according to the completion status of the mission, and thus, discover talented disciples. Informing this news to the outer sect elders was appropriate. On the other hand, Yi Qingtang, who obtained Xianming points, did not know what kind of trouble would come her way after picking up this head. At this instant, Yi Qingtang was already at the door of the physician warden in the outer sect, and directly invited him into her dorm. Anything could be put on wait temporarily right now. Wakening her precious wolf was then the most important thing. Chapter 188. Warden 2, this is my wolf. It has been in deep sleep for many days, and has not woken up. I'll have to trouble you to take a look at it. Yi Qingtang pointed at the huge wolf on her bed, and said to the over 100-year-old senior, whom she brought to her room. Warden 2 touched his beard, and examined the wolf on the bed with narrowed eyes. Are you certain it did not sustain any external injuries? Warden 2 was responsible for medical aspects in Xianling sect's outer sect. If any outer sect disciple was sick, he was always asked to help. Occasionally, some disciples with combat pets would find him for help as well, and Warden 2 was already used to such things. I've checked many times on the way and did not see any injuries on its body, Yi Qingtang said. Warden 2 nodded thoughtfully, and stepped forward to examine the silver wolf's condition. But his expression became a little weird after this check. Little girl, are you really intending to raise this wolf? Warden 2 looked at Yi Qingtang, as though he wanted to say something more. Is there any problem? Yi Qingtang was a little puzzled. Warden 2 sighed. There isn't any problem. But, although this wolf of yours looks pretty good, it is at most an ordinary wolf breed, and not a spirit animal. Even if you spend all your energy to raise it well, it would probably not be a good combat pet, and at most a useless wolf. Although this wolf's fur was very nice, Warden 2 felt that this was an ordinary wolf, and there was nothing special about it no matter how he saw it. The certain wolf with tightly shut eyes suddenly let out a dangerous aura upon hearing the words, useless wolf. However, Yi Qingtang and Warden 2 were in a conversation, and did not notice it. Warden 2, I just like it. No matter what it is, I have decided to raise it. Please help me to look at what to do. Yi Qingtang was strangely firm. Useless or not, it was still her wolf, and there was no use even if others said anything. She would raise it. Yi Qingtang did not notice that her firm words caused that silver wolf's dangerous aura to vanish into thin air immediately, as it laid even more securely on the bed. Warden 2 sighed. Honestly speaking, he was in disapproval of Xianling's sect disciples, raising such an ordinary wolf as a combat pet. Combat pets had to be raised carefully for them to turn out well and strong, and most of them were raised from young. However, not only did Yi Qingtang pick up a grown wolf on the road, the wolf was such an ordinary breed. This was really, whatever. I will help you to take a good look, but I have to inform you first it might not recover immediately given that it has been unconscious for several days. There's even a chance of it being in this state forever. Then, the warden stretched out his hand helplessly wanting to properly examine the wolf's condition. But just when Warden 2 was about to touch it, its tightly shut eyes suddenly opened. A pair of dark green orbs directly met with Warden 2's casual eyes. This look almost scared Warden 2 to death. Why did this wolf suddenly wake up? Yi Qingtang saw that the silver wolf was suddenly awake, and a smile immediately broke out on her face. In her happiness, she instinctively wanted to stretch out her hands to touch the wolf's fur. But she was suddenly met with those dark green orbs. Wolves were extremely defensive animals, and very aggressive. While Yi Qingtang hugged this wolf for many days, it had always been sleeping. Right now, she was still a stranger to it. Chapter 189. Yi Qingtang was going to retract her hands, but suddenly realized that the wolf only cast her an aloof look before looking away, as though it did not plan to resist or attack her. Happiness filled her, and she automatically took the silver wolf's reaction as an acceptance of her. Insatiably, she reached her hands out and rubbed the fluffy wolf fur. Yeah, comfortable. The silver wolf froze slightly, but did not resist at all, and Yi Qingtang caressed it even more brazenly. Warden 2's lips twitched. He just said that the wolf would never wake up. But then it woke up? His face was completely gone. Since it is awake, there should not be any big problems already. Warden 2 was obviously not too attentive to this useless wolf. But Yi Qingtang said very seriously, but it slept for so long, could it have any internal injuries? Warden 2 replied casually, perhaps. However, there shouldn't be any big problems. If you're worried, you can massage it with spirit energy. Anyways, this will only benefit and not harm it. Although Warden 2 said that, he still felt that Yi Qingtang was crazy. Otherwise, why would she use such precious spirit energy to massage a useless wolf? However, Yi Qingtang remembered his words clearly. Warden 2 saw that there was nothing much, and left after saying a few words insincerely. After walking Warden 2 out, Yi Qingtang walked back to her bed and smiled extremely brightly as she looked at the seductive and handsome wolf. A pair of small hands had already unconsciously started directing her inner chi as they touched the wolf's body. A certain wolf's body completely froze, but Yi Qingtang grinned. Little baby, don't be afraid, I'll give you a good massage. Don't worry, it'll be very gentle. A certain wolf froze for a while and ultimately turned its head around. Let her be then. Once Suwon returned to the room, she saw Yi Qingtang smiling extremely evilly while touching a silver wolf all over. She was slightly shocked, but she subsequently remembered what Yun Shu told her to pass on to Yi Qingtang. However, at this instant, Suwon narrowed her eyes into a slit and looked away without telling Yi Qingtang anything as though she did not know anything. She would definitely not let senior brother Yin and Yi Qingtang have anything going on between them. At the same time, the file that the rewards pavilion warden sent to the outer sect elder had already reached the hands of the outer sect elder. Elder Huang was the elder of the outer sect's sword faction, and was also the one who introduced the sect rules to the disciples. As he read the file that was sent over by the rewards pavilion, his brows were slightly furrowed. An outer sect sword faction disciple standing beside him obediently handed him a cup of tea. "Does elder have any troubling matters?" the disciple asked. Elder Huang said, "Zhou Xian, have you heard of a disciple called Yi Qingtang in the outer sect?" When Zhou Xian suddenly heard the words Yi Qingtang, his eyes sharpened, but he hid his emotions away skillfully and replied calmly, "I did hear of her previously. I think she is a new disciple." Elder Huang nodded and placed the file aside. "When this disciple first entered the outer sect, I didn't expect her to have such skills." Zhou Xian was confused but did not dare to probe. Elder Huang did not say anything more, and ordered someone to deliver the file back. Then he spoke to Zhou Xian again. "Zhou Xian, how is your brother Zhou Chu's injury?" Chapter 190. Thank you for your concern, Elder. He is already fine, Zhou Xian said calmly, but a sharp look flashed across his eyes. Elder Huang did not notice Zhou Xian's expression, and merely nodded his head. "Although you and Zhou Chu are brothers, your brother's natural talent is far from yours. You need to focus on cultivation instead, and not let down this gift of yours." "Yes," Zhou Xian replied. "There is nothing here already. You can go down first," Elder Huang said and waved a hand. Zhou Xian left, and directly headed to Zhou Chu's room. Zhou Chu was already much better now, and was chatting with a group of disciples. When he saw Zhou Xian, his face turned white, dispersed the group immediately, and then went up to him carefully. "Big brother, you're here." Zhou Xian frowned slightly. He was very unhappy to see Zhou Chu's cowardly behavior, but could only bear with it, because he was his brother. "Who did you say was the person who injured you?" Half a month ago, he suddenly heard that his brother Zhou Chu was severely beaten up by someone, and he had to lie in bed for a week because of this injury. Although Zhou Chu was not skilled, he was still his brother, who did not know about his relationship with Zhou Chu in the outer sect. Even though Zhou Chu took advantage of Zhou Xian's influence, no one dared to go against Zhou Xian, and anyone would still give Zhou Chu some face. But this time when Zhou Chu was beaten up, Zhou Xian completely lost face. Zhou Chu felt wronged immediately when he heard the question. "Big brother, you must seek revenge for me. It was all done by Yi Qingtang, that little bitch. She is a new disciple but dared to injure me." Shut up." Zhou Xian's face turned cold, and glared at Zhou Chu until he kept quiet. "That Yi Qingtang is only a new disciple. You have been in the outer sect for many years, and barely obtained the 1000th rank. But you can't even beat a newly entered disciple. How do you have the face to say it?" Zhou Chu completely lost his face because of Zhou Xian's scolding, but did not dare to resist as well. Thus, he could only lower his head timidly without making a noise. Zhou Xian looked at his brother's good-for-nothing behavior, and was boiling with anger. "I'll remember this incident. I went to look for Yi Qingtang when you told me about it the other time. However, she was out on a mission, and was not in the sect. Perhaps she is back now already. You better behave yourself during this period of time, and stop going around to embarrass me." Zhou Xian warned Zhou Chu with a glare. Happiness filled his heart when Zhou Chu heard his brother's words. Zhou Xian was way more skilled than him, and if Zhou Xian was willing to take action, Yi Qingtang would definitely not be able to fight back regardless of her abilities. "Thank you, big brother. I will definitely listen to you on every matter." "Right, big brother. These are the bottles of She Spirit pills that I got from this batch of new disciples." Zhou Xian looked over, and kept them naturally. He asked with a slight frown, "Why are there only these few bottles this time?" Not only did Zhou Xian know about Zhou Chu's arena, he silently consented to it as well. Every time, a portion of the She Spirit pills that Zhou Chu obtained would be pocketed by Zhou Xian, who was more than happy to do so. Zhou Chu replied, "It's all Yi Qingtang, who used some tricks and cheated a few bottles of She Spirit pills from me." Oh, Zhou Xian raised a brow, and his lips formed a sneer. Yi Qingtang, you're good. You just entered the sect, yet you are so disobedient already. Previously, senior brother Ning from the inner sect already ordered me to take good care of her. Now not only did she injure you, she even dares to snatch my she spirit pills? I will definitely settle all these new and old scores with her. Chapter 191. Senior brother Ning also knows Yi Qingtang? Zhou Chu's eyes brightened when he heard the words senior brother Ning. This senior brother Ning, Ning Luo, was a renowned disciple in the inner sect, and doted on by the elder of the inner sect's sword faction. Even in the entire Xianling sect, he was a person of rank. He did not expect that Yi Qingtang even offended Ning Luo as well. Zhou Chu really wanted to laugh now. You don't need to ask about other matters. Zhou Xian did not intend to tell Zhou Chu too many things. Zhou Chu did not dare to ask further. While they were brothers, he was actually fearful of Zhou Xian deep down. Zhou Xian left after understanding the situation, and planned on how to fulfill Ning Luo's orders, and seek revenge for Zhou Chu. He was an old disciple in Xianling sect already, and was aware that stirring up troubles the way Zhou Chu had been doing was a foolish method. Even though Zhou Chu was beaten up by Yi Qingtang, the incident was started by him, and Yi Qingtang would not be punished. The only way to deal with Yi Qingtang was to be outside the sect. Zhou Xian narrowed his eyes, and immediately headed to find the outer sect warden. On the other side, Yi Qingtang massaged the silver wolf from head to toe, and left the room happily under the wolf's stare, after cheerfully preparing a large amount of food. With few hundreds of Xianming points on hand, she would be a fool if she did not use them. The key was that Yi Qingtang knew how to make full use of the Xianming points. A few disciples in the same batch as Yi Qingtang were still familiarizing themselves with the outer sect. After half a month, they were all more or less familiar with things around here. Most of them had heard that Yi Qingtang was out on a mission, and had mixed emotions upon seeing Yi Qingtang back in the sect again. Yi Qingtang is back already? Do you think she completed the mission? Who knows? But I heard that she rode on the coattails of a few outer sect senior brothers to participate in the mission. Even if it was completed, she was also a freeloader. What can she not do when she is born with a good-looking face? Does she still need to put in any effort herself? Wouldn't things be settled if she just used her face to butter up to the senior brothers? What's the use of being pretty? Do you think they are fools? If she did not help out, who would give her Xianming points? That's logical. However, wasn't Yi Qingtang always like this? She kept cozying up to Yin Shu previously, and seduced other outer sect senior brothers now. It's disgusting to even look at it. Does she think she would succeed in the outer sect by relying on these relations? Don't care about her. Anyways, we have all been training hard in these few weeks. Even if she gets those random deals, she will have it good when she has to use her real skills. In another half a month's time, we will have entered the sect for a month already, and would need to accept the appointed missions by the sect. Let's see what she is going to do then. A few new disciples were gathered to discuss some things. It was not that they had a deep enmity towards Yi Qingtang, but rather because Yi Qingtang was the first to participate in a rewarded mission in their batch. Given her unique case, it was undoubted that it would attract gossips. Some people were always like that. When others did something that they were unable to do, they would always be full of slander, and never reflected on themselves. Little did they know that the defamed Yi Qingtang from their mouths was headed towards the largest trading place, the Dragon Court. The Dragon Court was an area drawn out by the outer sect, and specially provided to outer sect disciples to make deals. Any disciple could sell valuable items here, and if there was anything that one needed, he or she would only need to exchange the item using the corresponding amount of Xianming points. Here, the most popular items were parts of demonic beasts that the disciples conveniently picked up when on missions. Other than that, there were also some elixirs made by the herbal faction's disciples. Chapter 192. Although it was in the afternoon, the Dragon Court was already bustling with activity. In the Dragon Court that had been independently drawn out, pieces of cloth were laid on the floor, and items to be sold were placed on them, forming a simple stall. Many disciples would come here to earn some xianming points. After all, xianming points were precious to anyone. Yi Qingtang entered the dragon court and was attracted by the bustling scene. In her previous life, she visited the dragon court many times as well. But then, she did not have enough xianming points to use in the dragon court, as she was not powerful enough. Even if she occasionally saw things she liked, she could only walk away quietly. Then, the only reason she came to the dragon court was to sell the items she obtained when she was out on missions. And most of the disciples selling items were like her in her previous life. Those like Gu Yanqiu and Qin Huan would never sell items in the dragon court, but they would keep useful goods for themselves. Moreover, they had enough xianming points for their day-to-day spending and would never release good items for sale. Only disciples who had no way of earning xianming points would be here to sell goods. Yi Qingtang's eyes swept across her surroundings with emotions different from before. There were still quite a number of treasures in the dragon court. All disciples had different targets on their missions, and thus there were a wide variety of things they got. As long as one had good judgment, there was no problem in obtaining good things from here. Yi Qingtang passed by a few stalls and looked at the items displayed at the stalls. Although they were pretty good, they were not what she needed. In the entire dragon court, elixirs refined by the herbal faction disciples were the most popular. In Xianling sect, the number of xianming points required for elixirs was extremely high. Just using the Shi spirit pills that Yi Qingtang and the rest just received as an example, normal disciples were most probably unable to earn enough xianming points to exchange for 2 bottles of it. Other elixirs were very pricey as well, and slightly better elixirs were even more expensive. Under such circumstances, the use of the herbal faction disciples was revealed. There were a total of 4 factions in Xianling sect, and the main faction was the sword faction. All the disciples needed to cultivate swordplay, and not everyone could be involved in the other 3 factions. Approval from each faction's elder would be needed for them to step into other factions. Thus, to obtain cheaper elixirs, they could only buy them from the herbal faction disciples. On the other hand, herbal faction disciples were happy to take these elixirs that they cultivated out to sell. After all, they refined elixirs on usual days, and the number of elixirs they accumulated was not a small one. However, these outer sect herbal faction disciples' refinement skills were not high. It was simply impossible for elixirs made by them to have the best effects, and they could only be considered a half-completed product at best. But even such half-completed products were way better than those elixirs circulating outside the sect, and thus were well received by other disciples. Yi Qingtang had not walked much in the dragon court, and already saw many stalls selling elixirs. Disciples with a herbal faction badge in front of their chests had already set displaying the elixirs, and were waiting for business. However, Yi Qingtang was not too interested in these elixirs, and walked past those herbal faction disciples' stalls, after taking a quick glance. Right after, she saw a lonely figure kneeling at one side, as he looked at the pile of junk displayed before him with a distressed look on his face. Chapter 193. That disciple looked to be in his early 20s. He had rather sharp features, and was slightly more well-built than normal disciples. But at that instant, he knelt at his stall with a melancholic expression. His large build was curled into a ball, as he looked into the passing crowd sadly and helplessly. Yi Qingtang looked at the stall in front of that man, and her lips slightly tugged up after this look. The disciple was not selling any rare items, but had some spirit crystals of varied sizes. Spirit crystal was a type of crystal, which naturally stored spirit energy. Many veins occasionally produced it, and although not much was produced, it was not considered rare either. A spirit crystal was different from a spirit stone. The spirit energy in spirit stones could be absorbed and converted by humans, while the spirit energy in spirit crystals was completely combined with the crystal, and there was no way one could extract it for cultivation. Furthermore, because the spirit crystal contained spirit energy, there were many cotton fiber-looking crystalline shapes in the crystal body, which greatly affected the lustrousness and appearance of the spirit crystal. As a result, almost no one was interested in them. Spirit crystals were unable to replace the effects of spirit stones, and their appearances were even more incomparable. It could be said that spirit crystals had a worthless existence. This type of item should not appear in the sect since, after all, sect disciples were from renowned families and had extensive knowledge. Such useless items like spirit crystals simply would not attract the attention of any disciple. And there were some disciples who even laughed when they saw the spirit crystals. Which fool actually took this thing out? It would be weird if they could be sold. Regardless of the number of people walking past him, none of them stopped to look at his items. When compared to the stall selling elixirs beside him, his area was extremely empty. An herbal faction disciple who just sold 2 bottles of elixirs smiled as he looked at the Xianming points on his bracelet. He turned around and spoke to a despondent-looking disciple. Tong Hua, I told you long ago that no one wants these spirit crystals. Instead of sitting here foolishly, why not take on some missions to earn some Xianming points? After all, you're a fist faction disciple and selling spirit crystals is still too. The herbal faction disciple appeared to be well-meaning, but the sarcasm in his eyes revealed his real intentions. Tong Hua looked at him and gave a bitter laugh without saying anything. This herbal faction disciple, and he entered the outer sect at the same time. He had a good physique, and his natural endowments were considered not bad in his batch. Rather, it was that herbal faction disciple who had an average natural endowment. However, it was different years later. Tong Hua did not put that herbal faction disciple's mockery to heart, and only looked after his stall silently, waiting for that slim chance. This scene fell into Yi Qingtang's eyes, and the herbal faction disciple's mockery still lingered around her ears. The corner of her lips tugged upwards slightly as she walked towards Tong Hua's stall. How do you sell this spirit crystal? A clear female voice suddenly traveled into his ears, and the depressed Tong Hua looked up in surprise, only to be completely taken aback there and then. Against the sunlight, the young girl was so beautiful, as though she was not a mortal on earth, while her smile seemed to be able to intoxicate someone. Chapter 194. Tong Hua was rather besotted from looking for a moment, and only after that girl waved her hands, smilingly in front of his eyes, did he finally return to his senses. He instinctively shivered as a blush crept onto his chiseled face. How could there be such a good-looking junior sister? Do you want to buy spirit crystals? Tong Hua had a rigid nature, and because he was tall and well-built on top of the fact that his strong facial features made him look fierce, there were rarely any female disciples who interacted with him. Now that he met such a pretty junior sister, he could not help but be tongue-tied. The herbal faction disciple nearby saw that shockingly beautiful girl as well, and his eyes glowed. Before waiting for Tong Hua to say anything, he immediately opened his mouth. This junior sister, spirit crystals are not spirit stones. Even if you buy it back, there will be no use for it. Don't get cheated, he said without caring that Tong Hua was right there. Yi Qingtang looked at the both of them with a smile, and understood more or less. This senior brother Tong Hua had such a poor business partly due to the help from this herbal faction disciple, didn't he? Tong Hua's expression turned a little ugly after the herbal faction disciple said those words in his face. He was about to say something, but the herbal faction disciple spoke before him again. Tong Hua, this little junior sister seems to be quite young. You must not cheat her because of her young age. Then, Tong Hua was really furious that his face flushed. When had he cheated anyone? He could not even say anything, and was already called a cheater by this herbal faction disciple. He was enraged. The herbal faction disciple looked at Tong Hua's red face in delight, and was not at all bothered. Disciples were not allowed to fight amongst themselves in the sect, and he was certain that Tong Hua would definitely not act recklessly. Moreover, he was sure from the start that while Tong Hua appeared rather fierce on the outside, he was a very honest man. The herbal faction disciple's words were to firstly, embarrass Tong Hua and secondly, establish some relations with this beautiful junior sister. However, senior brother Tong, is it? You haven't said how you're going to sell these spirit crystals, Yi Qingtang said to Tong Hua with a flower-like smile without bothering with the herbal faction's provocation. The fury in Tong Hua was extinguished by that crisp-sounding senior brother Tong. He, who was not good at conversing with people of the opposite sex, looked at Yi Qingtang before him, and panicked a little. This spirit crystal is sold at 1 Xianming point for 1 crystal. If you like them, 2 Xianming points for 3 crystals is fine as well. Tong Hua said this one sentence with many stumbles, and his voice became softer as he spoke on. 1 Xianming point was really a low price. While this spirit crystal was useless, it was worth more than this price. According to normal calculations, it should be 2 to 3 Xianming points for 1 crystal no matter what. The price that Tong Hua set surprised Yi Qingtang slightly. The herbal faction disciple saw that Yi Qingtang did not reply immediately and mocked. Tong Hua, this spirit crystal is simply a useless piece of rubbish. Isn't it too big of a ripoff to sell it for 1 Xianming point? Tong Hua hurriedly waved his hands as though Tong Hua was afraid that Yi Qingtang believed the other party's words and misunderstood him. I am not ripping off from her. However, Yi Qingtang replied with a grin. How many spirit crystals does senior brother Tong have? Tong Hua was a little confused as to what this junior sister asked it for, but still said honestly, about 70 to 80 plus. Chapter 195. Yi Qingtang calculated mentally and immediately smiled. I want all of them. Right after Yi Qingtang spoke, Tong Hua was dumbfounded, and even the herbal faction disciple who had been mocking Tong Hua felt his jaw drop from the shock. She wants all 70 to 80 of them? Is this little junior sister crazy? Tong Hua was stunned for quite a while, and suspected whether he heard wrongly. He could not help but confirm again. Little junior sister, how many did you say you wanted? Yi Qingtang's smile remained as she said, all. Tong Hua was really shocked. He got these spirit crystals half a year ago, and after selling for a whole 6 months, he only sold 2 or 3 pieces. Never would he dream that someone would actually buy all of his spirit crystals at one go. And it was someone who seemed to be a newly entered disciple. Are you sure? But these spirit crystals really do not have many uses. Tong Hua hoped to quickly get rid of these hot potatoes, but when he saw this pretty junior sister bravely saying that she wanted to buy all the spirit crystals, Tong Hua did not dare to sell them instead. He was afraid he would really rip off this little junior sister. If you really like it, I'll just gift you 2 of them then. It is better if you don't buy them, Tong Hua said as he scratched his head. Yi Qingtang was tickled by Tong Hua's frank response. This senior brother was really an honest man. Senior brother, I am not joking with you. I want all of the spirit crystals. Let's just go with the price you said just now. 1 Xianming point for 2 crystals, Yi Qingtang said generously. From aside, the expression which the herbal faction disciple used to look at Yi Qingtang was as though he was looking at a lunatic. Why was it that this junior sister was born with such a pretty face, but did not have any brains? Even if the price was 1 Xianming point for 2 spirit crystals, she would still need 30 to 40 Xianming points. And spending this amount on 2 bottles of she spirit pills was more worth it. Tong Hua did not know what to do with Yi Qingtang's stubbornness, and was troubled over it, but suddenly saw a familiar person walking in his direction. He hurriedly stood up and shouted, Junior brother Qin. Here. Qin Huan, who was strolling leisurely in the dragon court, suddenly heard a shout, and when he looked over, he saw a tall and muscular Tong Hua waving at him frantically. Senior brother Tong? What happened to you? Qin Huan walked over brightly, and could not help but laugh when he took a look at Tong Hua's stall. Senior brother Qin, you haven't sold this batch of spirit crystals which you got cheated to accept that time? I think it is better to find a fool quickly and sell them off cheaply. Junior brother Qin, stop talking already. Help me here. This person wants to buy all of my spirit crystals at one go. Hurry! Persuade her not to do it. Tong Hua knew that he was not good at talking to people of the opposite sex, so he might as well pull Qin Huan, who was good at flirting with girls, to help him out. Upon hearing Tong Hua, Qin Huan could not help but laugh, as he turned to look at the person who Tong Hua spoke about. There is really a fool who wants to buy these rotten. The moment Qin Huan turned around, he was met with a pair of smiling eyes, and his words were immediately stuck in his throat before he finished his sentence. Yi Qingtang folded her arms and looked at Qin Huan with a beam as a dangerous glint emerged in her eyes. She said casually, "So I'm actually a fool in senior brother Qin's eyes." Chapter 196. Qin Huan's lips twitched as he looked at Yi Qingtang, and his head was about to explode. Shit! Tong Hua, this scoundrel screwed him. So it's junior sister Yi. Ha! What a coincidence! Qin Huan said as he broke out in a cold sweat. How he wished he could hang Tong Hua, who called him over, on a tree and hammer him. Yi Qingtang raised a brow slightly and swept a meaningful look at Qin Huan. Qin Huan only felt a gush of cold air behind his back, and the smile on his face broke into pieces. Tong Hua looked strangely at the frozen Qin Huan, and had not sensed that Qin Huan became strange suddenly, as he asked curiously, "Junior brother Qin, do you know this little junior sister?" Qin Huan put on a smile that was uglier than a cry and nodded tragically. "She is. Junior sister Yi. Why would I not know her?" Was it too late for him to leave now? Tong Hua nodded slowly and did not notice Qin Huan's expression, which read, "I want to die right now," and said uprightly, "That's good then. Qin Huan, help me persuade this junior sister. There is not much use if she buys these spirit crystals back. If she likes them, it's fine for me to give some to her. These Xianming points cannot be anyhow spent, especially new disciples." Tong Hua persuaded earnestly. If not for the fact that Qin Huan could not defeat Tong Hua, he really wanted to box this fool to death. New disciples' Xianming points could not be anyhow spent? That applied to others but not Yi Qingtang, who was a tycoon. He personally witnessed Yi Qingtang cheerfully taking the head of a villain on the assassination roll to claim her reward after receiving over 60 Xianming points from the giant lizard mission. Qin Huan really wanted to tell Tong Hua that he was worried for the wrong person, and that the number of Xianming points in Yi Qingtang's hands was more than both of theirs added together. However, a wise man would submit to the circumstances. Qin Huan simply did not bother about Tong Hua's persuasion, and looked straight at Yi Qingtang. "Junior sister Yi likes this spirit crystal? You should have said earlier. I have known senior brother Tong for a long time, and I can let him sell them at a cheaper price. I see that there's quite a number of spirit crystals. How about I help you to carry them back?" Qin Huan smiled in an extremely suck-up manner. After personally witnessing Yi Qingtang's powers, he did not dare to offend such a fierce junior sister. Furthermore, Yi Qingtang's fire-resistant soft armor even saved his life. Who knew how many more treasures this little junior sister had? He really had to sweet-talk her and offer his assistance the best he could. Tong Hua was dumbfounded. He clearly got Qin Huan over to persuade Yi Qingtang. Why did he suddenly betray him? Yi Qingtang chuckled at the suck-up Qin Huan and said, "Senior brother Qin's price is very low already, and it doesn't need to be lowered further. However, if senior brother Qin is free, I can approve your request to help me move my things." Tong Hua already said previously that if Yi Qingtang wanted, he could sell 2 spirit crystals at 1 Xianming point. This price was already shockingly low, and Yi Qingtang was not the type to squeeze money out of others. No matter what, she would not go overboard. "No problem. Leave it to me." Qin Huan did not care that his manly image was broken at that very point. His suck-up behavior completely confused Tong Hua. "Senior brother Tong, pack the spirit crystals. I'll carry them back for junior sister Yi," Qin Huan said. Tong Hua was really on the verge of tears. Why did the help that he found turn to help Yi Qingtang and urging him instead? Chapter 197. With the betrayal of his ally, Tong Hua could only pack the spirit crystals with a sad face. Just by seeing his expression, those who did not know would think that he was robbed. Yi Qingtang nimbly transferred the corresponding 30-plus Xianming points to Tong Hua. While Tong Hua got rid of these burning potatoes, he felt extremely guilty towards Yi Qingtang, who got ripped off. "Junior, Junior sister Yi, if there's anything you need help with in the future, just go ahead and ask me. Thank you so much for today, Tong Hua said to Yi Qingtang earnestly. Yi Qingtang kept feeling as though she was taken advantage of, but the person who was taken advantage of was clearly Tong Hua. If one was overly honest and good-natured, others would feel quite helpless as well. Tong Hua stammered a while more to Yi Qingtang, and then finally packed up his items and returned to the fist faction for practice. On the other hand, Qin Huan, who was called over halfway, had no choice but to pay a price for his big mouth. Carrying 70 to 80 plus spirit crystals, Qin Huan grinned at Yi Qingtang and said, "Junior sister Yi, are you returning now?" Yi Qingtang turned around and walked out of the dragon court, without forgetting to signal Qin Huan behind her with a finger. Qin Huan followed up quickly. "Junior sister Yi, what are you buying so many spirit crystals for?" Qin Huan asked carefully, deeply afraid that what he said previously had offended Yi Qingtang. Gu Yanxiu was still waiting for Yi Qingtang to form a team with them to go on missions. And if Yi Qingtang complained to Gu Yanxiu, Qin Huan predicted that Gu Yanxiu would kick him out of the team in order to protect Yi Qingtang. Yi Qingtang replied, "Obviously because there's a use." Qin Huan remained silent. "You have many Xianming points, so you can spend lavishly." Yi Qingtang thought of something and asked, "Senior brother Qin, do you know who else has spirit crystals?" Qin Huan was dumbfounded. She bought so many already, but it still was not enough? She still wants to buy more spirit crystals? Is she crazy? However, he was not bold enough to say this in Yi Qingtang's face. "I'm afraid there isn't really anyone who has them. Spirit crystals are rare and not easy to find usually. Although veins produce them, it is extremely rare. Furthermore, no one required them, and thus this item was even rarer. Those that Tong Hua had were ones that he was being cheated to accept. Otherwise, no one would have so many spirit crystals for no reason. One must know that it was already amazing when a vein produced, at most 1 or 2 crystals." Qin Huan mumbled. "Cheated?" Yi Qingtang stopped in her tracks. She knew how useless spirit crystals were to humans as well, and thus was extremely happy when she saw them in Tong Hua's hands. Currently, no one knew the importance of spirit crystals yet, but in a few months later, a divine weapon would appear on Earth. That divine weapon was owned by a mighty figure, and its appearance caused a commotion. As rumors of the divine weapon's sharpness circulated, its origins were gradually dug out by people. That was a weapon with spirit crystals embedded in it, and was forged by a blacksmith who hid away from the world for many years. The spirit energy and spirit crystals could not be absorbed by people. Thus, humans saw them as useless items. However, that blacksmith discovered another use for the spirit crystals: to forge divine weapons. With the craft of a blacksmith, embedding spirit crystals into a weapon could increase the weapon's strength by a large extent. Once this news was spread, it could be said that the whole world was shaken as suddenly spirit crystals, which no one asked about before, suddenly became a popular treasure. All family clans and powerful groups went to great lengths to search for spirit crystals and invited famous blacksmiths to forge the weapons. Chapter 198. And because of this, the blacksmith's reputation skyrocketed, and weapons forged with spirit crystals were crowned as spirit weapons. Yi Qingtang lost her spirit root in her previous life, and once thought of using the power of a spirit weapon to counter enemies. Thus, she took a blacksmith as a teacher that time as well, where she hid from people and learned the craft at the same time. She was very clear that the current weapons were simply not on the same level as the future spirit weapons. If she could collect more spirit crystals before that mighty figure took out the first spirit weapon, it would definitely be of great help to her in the future. One must know that once spirit weapons exploded in popularity, all the spirit crystals on Earth were almost snatched away immediately by all the forces, and every crystal in the future could be sold at sky-high prices. Yi Qingtang did not expect that she would see so many spirit crystals in the Dragon Court, and since she saw them, she would definitely not pass them by and got them all decisively. However, Yi Qingtang was rather curious as to why Tong Hua had so many spirit crystals. When she mentioned this, Qin Huang could not help but tug his lips upwards. Isn't it all because that nincompoop is foolish? Half a year ago, he went out on a rewarded mission with a few senior brothers in the outer sect. Don't look at how upright senior brother Tong is. He could even crumble a huge boulder into pieces if he threw out a punch. He put in a lot of effort in missions, and it could be said that he was highly connected to the completion of missions. Logically, he would be distributed the most basic amount of Xianming points. However, those disciples on the mission with him took advantage of his good nature. All of them said they badly needed Xianming points, and found an excuse to swallow the share that senior brother Tong should have. They even made it sound nice that they were not taking his share for nothing and auctioned these spirit crystals for him in an auction house near their mission location as a compensation. Qin Huan became increasingly angry as he spoke. He had known Tong Hua for a long time already, and when he knew about this incident that time, he almost got into a fight with those bastards to help Tong Hua. Yi Qingtang could not believe what she heard. She did feel that Tong Hua was very honest, but this was too innocent. Suddenly, Yi Qingtang felt that senior brother Yun's good man image was not that hard to accept after comparing him to Tong Hua. If you really want spirit crystals, you can take a look at the auction houses nearby, Qin Huan said casually, though he did not know what Yi Qingtang wanted spirit crystals for. Yi Qingtang had a plan as well, and sympathized with the overly honest Tong Hua a little. Qin Huan followed Yi Qingtang and brought the bag of spirit crystals back to her room. Just when they returned to the room, they saw Su Wan, who was about to leave the room. Su Wan's expression changed a little when she saw Yi Qingtang, but when she saw Qin Huan behind her, she could not help but narrow her eyes, though she left without saying anything. Where do I place this? Qin Huan asked while carrying the spirit crystals when he entered the room. But when he said this, he suddenly realized that he seemed to be glared at by a pair of sharp eyes. His eyes followed the direction of that feeling, and suddenly saw that silver wolf, which was lying on Yi Qingtang's bed, was staring at him with an extremely dangerous expression. Qin Huan had goosebumps all over from the silver wolf's glare, and he did not know why, but he felt that if he stayed any longer, something ominous would happen. Right after he placed down the bag, he quickly found an excuse and escaped. Chapter 199-1. Qin Huan ran so quickly as though someone was after his life. Yi Qingtang could not help but find that scene funny. She thought that Qin Huan was worried that she would settle scores with him, and did not notice that the murderous expression in the silver wolf's eyes faded after Qin Huan's departure. Hehe, little baby. I got many good things today. Yi Qingtang went up to the silver wolf and grinned at it, as when she saw that the room was empty. The silver wolf quietly looked at Yi Qingtang's salivating expression with a very complicated expression. I have not given you a massage today. Now is just nice. Yi Qingtang did not care whether her silver wolf could understand or not as she rolled up her sleeves and aimed at its furry body with her fingers. Once the silver wolf heard the word massage, its body froze, and before it could react, a pair of dishonest hands stroked its body familiarly. As though she felt the wolf's frozen body, Yi Qingtang comforted it gently. Don't worry, baby. I will be very gentle. The silver wolf looked at the besotted Yi Qingtang speechlessly and laid down with a resigned expression, letting her trample it as she wished. Yi Qingtang was caressing the wolf delightedly, but did not know that Su Wan, who went out previously, went to look for Yun Shu. She exaggeratedly told that Yi Qingtang and Qin Huan entered and left the room together, and that Yi Qingtang was too busy getting close with other senior brothers, and probably had no time to meet Yun Shu. Yun Shu did not say anything though. Because Yi Qingtang had the silver wolf, she hurriedly returned to massage the wolf after cultivation every day, and did not have many interactions with Yun Shu. Days passed. In the blink of an eye, it had been a month since the new disciples entered the sect. In this 1 month, all the new disciples familiarized themselves with everything in Xianling sect's outer sect, and were on the right track in their cultivation. And once this first month was over, The new disciples were to welcome a new challenge. Sect-appointed missions. This was a mission that every sect disciple had to complete, and the contents of the mission were appointed by the outer sect warden. This day, all the new disciples were summoned. The teaching warden stood in front of them with many files in his hand. Today, the sect will appoint a mission to every one of you. Regardless of a solo or a team mission with other disciples, all of you must place the sect's glory as the main priority when you are out handling matters. If you do anything which damages the sect's reputation, you will be punished according to the sect rules, said the teaching warden coldly. Everyone nodded. Then the warden handed down the missions. While these disciples were to begin on sect missions, they did not have enough experience after all. Apart from Yi Qingtang, who completed a rewarded mission half a month ago, most had not come into contact with such missions. Thus, most of the missions were still relatively easy. Yun Shu only exchanged a few words with Yi Qingtang in the past few weeks, and finally met her then. How are you recently, junior sister Yi? Yun Shu asked with a smile. Yi Qingtang had a handsome wolf to accompany her these few days, and her days were spent comfortably at ease. The fatigue from a whole day of cultivation would instantly vanish every time she stroked the wolf in the name of massaging it. Everything is good. I wonder what senior brother Yin thinks of this appointed mission? Yi Qingtang asked smilingly. Although she was not overly close to Yin Shu these days, she was always paying attention to any news regarding Yin Shu. She did not forget her plan to investigate the truth behind Yin Shu's fall in the past life. Chapter 199 to 2. Sect Mission 2. I did ask around about it previously. Yin Shu obviously paid attention to the sect mission matters previously. A month after the new disciples entered the sect, they would have to take on their first sect mission. These kind of missions for the new disciple were relatively easy, and were basically completed in groups. Just as Yin Shu and Yi Qingtang were talking, Su Wan, who was standing a few steps away from Yin Shu, had a dark expression. She glared right at the both of them, and a deathly cold air seemed to be hidden in her seemingly gentle eyes. Su Wan originally wanted to use the opportunity to become closer to Yin Shu, but she did not expect that before she walked to Yin Shu's side, Yi Qingtang would already be talking to Yin Shu. Looking at their intimate behavior, Su Wan's heart was as though it was chopped into pieces by a knife. Senior brother Yun's eyes were glued on Yi Qingtang. Su Wan was clearly standing behind senior brother Yin, but he did not even realize she was here. On what basis? Su Wan quietly clenched her fist tightly and looked at Yi Qingtang's exquisite side profile, wishing that she could slash Yi Qingtang's face with a knife. She clearly tried all sorts of means for Yin Shu and Yi Qingtang to not interact with each other in this period of time. She clearly told Yin Shu many bad things about Yi Qingtang, and she never even mentioned to Yi Qingtang that Yin Shu wanted her to find him. But why was Yin Shu acting as if nothing happened? Hatred and resentment filled Su Wan's eyes. And it was at this instant when the teaching warden assigned the missions to the disciples. This is your first time accepting a sect mission. To ensure that you all can complete it successfully, I will appoint the more skilled people as the mission's team leader. Then, the warden looked at the files in his hands and called out a few names. Yin Shu and Lu Xiuwen were the most skilled amongst the new disciples, and were obviously in the list of names called out. Apart from the two of them, the warden called out another 4 people and handed down the missions that they had to take on. After looking at the mission, these disciples could freely choose the other members to embark on the mission with. These 6 people were the most skilled amongst their batch of new disciples, and the difference between the disciples' skills could be seen from here. The 6 people who were called out took a step forward and stood within everyone's line of sight. Junior sister Su, senior brother Yin is also a leader for a mission. I think he will definitely choose you. Lu Yu, who was standing beside Su Wan, looked at the glorious Yin Shu as she beamed at Su Wan, who wore a gloomy expression. Su Wan returned to her senses and quickly hid away the resentment in her eyes as she smiled gently. Who knows who senior brother Yin will choose? Just now, Junior sister Yi was talking to senior brother Yin, and perhaps she had already told him about this. After hearing, Lu Yu looked at Yi Qingtang with a face of disdain. What a vixen! I heard that after she returned from the rewarded mission the other time, she did not interact much with senior brother Yin. Yet now, she is acting chummy with him. Isn't it all because she knows that she must take on a sect mission already, and wants to cozy up to senior brother Yin? Junior sister Su, you have been on such good terms with senior brother Yin recently, and Yi Qingtang cannot compete against this. There are so many rumors in the outer sect about you and senior brother Yin now. I can see that senior brother Yin treats you pretty well, and he will definitely not be bewitched by that vixen Yi Qingtang. Su Wan could not help but smile shyly when she heard that. Indeed, many disciples were talking about the relationship between her and Yin Shu in this half a month. Chapter 199-3. Sect Mission 3. Both Su Wan and Yi Qingtang were close to Yin Shu, but there was a huge difference between them. While Su Wan was also a new disciple, she was far above Yi Qingtang, regardless of her family background or the grade of her spirit root. Although Yi Qingtang was superior in terms of appearance, the feeling that they gave people were completely different. In the eyes of others, there was nothing good about Yi Qingtang other than her face, and they felt that her relationship with Yin Shu was all Yi Qingtang's one-sided wishful thinking. Rather, they felt that Su Wan was more compatible with Yin Shu. Lu Yu uttered words of support for Su Wan as she made a plan for herself as well. Yin Shu's skills were good, and if she could work on a mission together with Yin Shu using Su Wan's relationship with him, Lu Yu believed that her score in the mission would be higher. Senior sister Lu, these are merely our guesses. It is still up to senior brother Yin to choose, Su Wan said gently. According to the rules, Yin Shu and the others were to pick their team members in order of the rank of their spirit roots. Brother Yin, which candidate do you have in mind this time? Lu Xiuan asked Yin Shu while raising a brow. Yin Shu gave a faint smile. It is all our first time participating in a sect mission. I am not very certain as well. Lu Xiuan laughed. Brother Yin, you're too humble. Didn't you take extra care of junior sister Yi previously? Though I rarely see you and junior sister Yi interacting after entering the sect. Not many people knew that Yi Qingtang took on a rewarded mission. Among the new disciples, only Su Wan and Yin Shu knew, but they did not tell anyone else about it. Furthermore, the new disciples were too busy familiarizing themselves with matters in the outer sect over the past half a month, and never noticed Yi Qingtang's disappearance. The only thing that everyone knew was that Yin Shu did not really interact with Yi Qingtang in this month, and that the person who was always by his side was Su Wan instead. Thus, many snickered that Yi Qingtang did not manage to cozy up to Yin Shu. Yin Shu obviously understood the meaning behind Lu Xiuan's words and frowned slightly. You can start selecting your team members already, the warden said. Yin Shu looked away and towards the new disciples. If there were no accidents, senior and junior brothers with yellow spirit roots would be the first to be selected. Yin Shu was still thinking of who to pick, but saw Su Wan looking at him expectantly. As he thought of how Su Wan cared for him in these few days, Yin Shu, who had a kind heart, could not bear to reject her. Junior sister Su. Yin Shu slowly announced the name of his first teammate. As Yin Shu spoke, Su Wan could not help but smile. Under everyone's gaze, she slowly walked up while looking at Yi Qingtang from the corner of her eye with a sarcastic expression. Yi Qingtang, no matter how good you are, the inferiority of your spirit root will not be changed. Su Wan went forward and stood behind Yin Shu, and this started discussions among many people. Everyone knew that Yin Shu only had many interactions with Yi Qingtang and Su Wan in the outer sect. Moreover, many noticed Su Wan's affection for Yin Shu. Now that Yin Shu chose Su Wan as his team member, wouldn't Yi Qingtang be abandoned then? In a moment, everyone looked at the leisurely Yi Qingtang with a nosy expression. If a useless red spirit root did not have Yin Shu's protection, which group would want her? Yi Qingtang stood calmly, and did not take any of those bad-meaning gazes around her to heart. This type of mission for new disciples was of no difficulty to her regardless of which group she joined, and thus, she saw no point in worrying. Chapter 200. I did ask around about it previously. Yin Shu obviously paid attention to the sect mission matters previously. A month after the new disciples entered the sect, they would have to take on their first sect mission. These kind of missions for the new disciple were relatively easy, and were basically completed in groups. Just as Yin Shu and Yi Qingtang were talking, Su Wan, who was standing a few steps away from Yin Shu, had a dark expression. She glared right at the both of them, and a deathly cold air seemed to be hidden in her seemingly gentle eyes. Su Wan originally wanted to use the opportunity to become closer to Yin Shu, but she did not expect that before she walked to Yin Shu's side, Yi Qingtang would already be talking to Yin Shu. Looking at their intimate behavior, Su Wan's heart was as though it was chopped into pieces by a knife. Senior brother Yin's eyes were glued on Yi Qingtang. Su Wan was clearly standing behind senior brother Yin, but he did not even realize she was here. On what basis? Su Wan quietly clenched her fist tightly and looked at Yi Qingtang's exquisite side profile, wishing that she could slash Yi Qingtang's face with a knife. She clearly tried all sorts of means for Yin Shu and Yi Qingtang to not interact with each other in this period of time. She clearly told Yin Shu many bad things about Yi Qingtang, and she never even mentioned to Yi Qingtang that Yin Shu wanted her to find him. But why was Yin Shu acting as if nothing happened? Hatred and resentment filled Su Wan's eyes, and it was at this instant when the teaching warden assigned the missions to the disciples. This is your first time accepting a sect mission. To ensure that you all can complete it successfully, I will appoint the more skilled people as the mission's team leader. Then, the warden looked at the files in his hands and called out a few names. Yin Shu and Lu Xiuwen were the most skilled amongst the new disciples, and were obviously in the list of names called out. Apart from the two of them, the warden called out another 4 people and handed down the missions that they had to take on. After looking at the mission, these disciples could freely choose the other members to embark on the mission with. These 6 people were the most skilled amongst their batch of new disciples, and the difference between the disciples' skills could be seen from here. The 6 people who were called out took a step forward and stood within everyone's line of sight. Junior sister Su, senior brother Yin is also a leader for a mission. I think he will definitely choose you. Lu Yu, who was standing beside Su Wan, looked at the glorious Yin Shu as she beamed at Su Wan, who wore a gloomy expression. Su Wan returned to her senses and quickly hid away the resentment in her eyes as she smiled gently. Who knows who senior brother Yin will choose? Just now, junior sister Yi was talking to senior brother Yin, and perhaps she had already told him about this. After hearing, Lu Yu looked at Yi Qingtang with a face of disdain. What a vixen! I heard that after she returned from the rewarded mission the other time, she did not interact much with senior brother Yin. Yet now, she is acting chummy with him. Isn't it all because she knows that she must take on a sect mission already, and wants to cozy up to senior brother Yin? Junior sister Su, you have been on such good terms with senior brother Yin recently, and Yi Qingtang cannot compete against this. There are so many rumors in the outer sect about you and senior brother Yin now. I can see that senior brother Yin treats you pretty well, and he will definitely not be bewitched by that vixen Yi Qingtang. Su Wan could not help but smile shyly when she heard that. Indeed, many disciples were talking about the relationship between her and Yin Shu in this half a month. Chapter 201. Both Su Wan and Yi Qingtang were close to Yin Shu, but there was a huge difference between them. While Su Wan was also a new disciple, she was far above Yi Qingtang, regardless of her family background or the grade of her spirit root. Although Yi Qingtang was superior in terms of appearance, the feeling that they gave people were completely different. In the eyes of others, there was nothing good about Yi Qingtang other than her face, and they felt that her relationship with Yin Shu was all Yi Qingtang's one-sided wishful thinking. Rather, they felt that Su Wan was more compatible with Yin Shu. Lu Yu uttered words of support for Su Wan as she made a plan for herself as well. Yun Shu's skills were good, and if she could work on a mission together with Yun Shu using Su Wan's relationship with him, Lu Yu believed that her score in the mission would be higher. Senior sister Lu, these are merely our guesses. It is still up to senior brother Yun to choose, Su Wan said gently. According to the rules, Yun Shu and the others were to pick their team members, in order of the rank of their spirit roots. Brother Yin, which candidate do you have in mind this time? Lu Xuan asked Yun Shu while raising a brow. Yun Shu gave a faint smile. It is all our first time participating in a sect mission. I am not very certain as well. Lu Xuan laughed. Brother Yin, you're too humble. Didn't you take extra care of junior sister Yi previously? Though I rarely see you and junior sister Yi interacting after entering the sect. Not many people knew that Yi Qingtang took on a rewarded mission. Among the new disciples, only Su Wan and Yun Shu knew, but they did not tell anyone else about it. Furthermore, the new disciples were too busy familiarizing themselves with matters in the outer sect over the past half a month, and never noticed Yi Qingtang's disappearance. The only thing that everyone knew was that Yun Shu did not really interact with Yi Qingtang in this month, and that the person who was always by his side was Su Wan instead. Thus, many snickered that Yi Qingtang did not manage to cozy up to Yun Shu. Yun Shu obviously understood the meaning behind Lu Xiaowen's words, and frowned slightly. You can start selecting your team members already, the warden said. Yun Shu looked away, and towards the new disciples. If there were no accidents, senior and junior brothers with yellow spirit roots would be the first to be selected. Yun Shu was still thinking of who to pick, but saw Su Wan looking at him expectantly. As he thought of how Su Wan cared for him in these few days, Yun Shu, who had a kind heart, could not bear to reject her. Junior sister Su. Yun Shu slowly announced the name of his first teammate. As Yun Shu spoke, Su Wan could not help but smile. Under everyone's gaze, she slowly walked up while looking at Yi Qingtang from the corner of her eye, with a sarcastic expression. Yi Qingtang, no matter how good you are, the inferiority of your spirit root will not be changed. Su Wan went forward and stood behind Yun Shu, and this started discussions among many people. Everyone knew that Yun Shu only had many interactions with Yi Qingtang and Su Wan in the outer sect. Moreover, many noticed Su Wan's affection for Yun Shu. Now that Yun Shu chose Su Wan as his team member, wouldn't Yi Qingtang be abandoned then? In a moment, everyone looked at the leisurely Yi Qingtang with a nosy expression. If a useless red spirit root did not have Yun Shu's protection, which group would want her? Yi Qingtang stood calmly, and did not take any of those bad-meaning gazes around her to heart. This type of mission for new disciples was of no difficulty to her regardless of which group she joined, and thus, she saw no point in worrying. Chapter 202. As the disciples were being called up one by one, the teammates behind Yun Shu and the others were gradually fixed. At last, only Yi Qingtang was left. Yun Shu also specifically left a spot where he planned to invite Yi Qingtang to join at the end. However, just when Yun Shu was about to open his mouth, the warden suddenly looked at Yi Qingtang and said, Yi Qingtang, there are other arrangements for your sect mission. The warden's words instantly caused a commotion. Yun Shu, who was about to say something, was stunned as well, while Su Wan could not help but break out into an arrogant smile. She could see that Yun Shu wanted to invite Yi Qingtang, but the warden did not even plan to place Yi Qingtang in this mission. Thinking about it, it was true as well. With such an inferior spirit root, which team would she not be a burden in? Yi Qingtang raised a brow slightly. She did not expect that there would be such a thing. Just as everyone was curious as to what other arrangements Yi Qingtang had, the warden waved a hand at an area not far away. Then, a tall and good-looking young disciple slowly walked out and appeared in front of everyone. Once everyone saw that disciple's face, they were all astonished. His face actually looked a little similar to Zhou Chu, the person who set up an arena to cheat them. Yi Qingtang, you will do your sect mission with Zhou Xian over here. Zhou Xian will personally tell you about the mission contents later, the warden said without expression. Zhou Xian walked forward, and his lips formed into a smile as he looked at the beautiful girl before him. Junior sister Yi, it's our first meeting. Please take care of me. Zhou Xian's appearance left many new disciples dumbfounded. What is going on? Yi Qingtang's first sect mission is actually with an old disciple? It should be known that the first sect mission was relatively easier, but missions that Zhou Xian, an old disciple, took on had many hidden dangers. Surprise flashed across Su Wan's eyes as well, but once she saw Zhou Xian's face, an evil thought appeared in her mind. Zhou Xian, Zhou Chu. These two people's faces were so similar, could it be that? The surprise in her eyes instantly turned into a gloat. Everyone still remembered how Yi Qingtang beat Zhou Chu up on the arena the other time. Yi Qingtang raised her brows slightly as she looked at Zhou Xian before her. She sneered in her heart. Isn't this Zhou Xian the older brother of Zhou Chu? She was initially curious as to why her mission was suddenly changed, but did not think that someone was actually behind all of this. Looking at the devious-looking Zhou Xian, Yi Qingtang already guessed that Zhou Xian most likely bribed the warden in secret, which caused things to become the way they were right now. Senior brother Zhou, that's too polite of you, Yi Qingtang said calmly with a faint smile. Zhou Xian sized up Yi Qingtang with a scoff in his heart. Exactly like what Yi Qingtang guessed. He already knew long ago that the new disciples would take on sect missions after entering the sect for a month. Yi Qingtang's teaching warden once taught Zhou Xian as well, and thus, Zhou Xian used this opportunity to change Yi Qingtang's mission. Disciples were forbidden from fighting amongst themselves in the sect. But if they left the sect, things would be different. If there were some injuries sustained in the mission, would they not be considered natural? Chapter 203. Zhou Xian looked at Yi Qingtang with a smile. There seemed to not be any evil intentions on his face, but there was a vicious look in his smiling eyes. He leaned forward slightly and whispered into Yi Qingtang's ears. Previously, junior sister Yi received 3 moves from my brother, Zhou Chu, on the arena, and I thought that you must be very skilled. Wouldn't it be a pity if you went on normal missions? Thus this time, I hope that junior sister Yi will really put your best performance in the mission. Zhou Xian smiled very kindly, but every word he said emitted a frightening sense of danger. Yi Qingtang scoffed in her heard, though she did not show any expressions on her face. Please take care of me, senior brother Zhou. Zhou Xian laughed. Of course. Then he stood straight and said, I still have some matters to settle. I will take a leave first. Then, Zhou Xian turned around and left after bidding the warden goodbye. From the start to the end, Zhou Xian did not mention anything regarding the mission to Yi Qingtang. All the missions were fixed, and each team needed to discuss the contents of the mission by themselves. Yun Shu was originally worried about Yi Qingtang and wanted to check on her, but was held back by Su Wan, who used the reason that they had to discuss the mission. Yi Qingtang smiled faintly as she looked at how everyone was gathered together. Then she left and mentally prepared for Zhou Xian's accident. But before Yi Qingtang returned to her room, she saw Qin Huan standing outside the dorm with an anxious expression. The moment Qin Huan saw Yi Qingtang, he hurriedly ran up to her. Junior sister Yi, there's something I need to tell you. Be careful these few days, someone wants to harm you. Qin Huan said hurriedly. Yi Qingtang replied, Are you talking about Zhou Xian? Qin Huan was taken aback. How do you know? That Zhou Xian is Zhou Chu's older brother. He might already know that you injured Zhou Chu the other time. When I was taking on a mission earlier, I heard that Zhou Xian seemed to have looked for your teaching warden to add you into his sect mission. You must be careful. Zhou Xian is not like Zhou Chu. He is extremely insidious. Yi Qingtang laughed. He has already looked for me, and the warden had placed me in his team as well. In a few days, I will have to go on a mission together with him. Qin Huan was stunned when he heard Yi Qingtang. His expression changed, and he muttered a curse. I knew that bastard Zhou Xian was sinister. I didn't think that he would take action so quickly. You must be more careful. Zhou Xian has many means and tricks. He does not dare to do anything to you in the sect, but using this mission, he will definitely not let you off easily. I think. How about you find an excuse to reject this mission? Qin Huan could not help but be worried about Yi Qingtang. In the outer sect, Zhou Xian's abilities were not considered weak. Although Qin Huan knew that Yi Qingtang was skilled, it was still too much danger for Yi Qingtang to go on a mission together with such an insidious person like Zhou Xian. How can a sect mission be rejected? Yi Qingtang replied. Qin Huan's shoulders slumped down immediately. Sect missions were missions that must be done. After being appointed a sect mission, one must proceed to complete it, and there was simply no way of rejecting it. How about, I'll ask senior brother Gu to talk to Zhou Xian? Qin Huan suggested. Gu Yanqiu had some status amongst the outer sect disciples, and perhaps he might be able to restrain Zhou Xian. I'll go look for senior brother Gu now. Don't worry, junior sister Yi. Then, he immediately turned around and sprinted away without waiting for Yi Qingtang's reply. Chapter 204. Yi Qingtang saw how Qin Huan ran away so quickly, and was at a loss of whether to cry or laugh. If Zhou Xian was so easy to persuade, Gu Yanqiu would have gone to settle the matter right when he heard the news. Yi Qingtang could not stop Qin Huan, and could only let him go. Yi Qingtang more or less knew what Zhou Xian was thinking of. There were often deaths when disciples were out on missions. Even if they accidentally lost their lives in a battle, the sect would not investigate too deeply into what happened. Yi Qingtang returned to the room with that thought. It was rare that Lin Long was also in the room today. Yi Qingtang nodded at Lin Long. She saw her, and then looked at the silver wolf, which was sitting below the window. When the wolf met Yi Qingtang's eyes, something seemed to flash across its green orbs, and it immediately turned away before Yi Qingtang sensed it. Yi Qingtang always felt that her little baby was too shy. Every time she massaged it, it always fell out with her. She was about to caress the wolf, but Lin Long, who had always been silent, suddenly called Yi Qingtang. Junior sister Yi. A rather aloof female voice sounded from behind Yi Qingtang. Yi Qingtang stopped in her tracks and looked at Lin Long, who suddenly said something. Senior sister Lin? Is there anything? Yi Qingtang usually did not spend a long time in the dorm, and even if she returned, she was mostly with the silver wolf. Lin Long had an aloof personality, and the two of them did not really interact with each other. The only time they talked was the day when Yi Qingtang just moved into the dorm. Lin Long had an indifferent look on her face. She stood up from her table and placed a file in Yi Qingtang's hands. Yi Qingtang looked at Lin Long a little confusedly. When she took a look at the file, she actually realized that it was the file for a sect mission. Why did she suddenly pass her this sect mission file? Return it back to me before tomorrow. Lin Long returned to her seat and took up a book to read after leaving Yi Qingtang with such an unclear sentence. Yi Qingtang was really at a loss and did not know what was Lin Long trying to do, but she still flipped through the file in her hand. And this surprised her immediately. At the last part of the file there was a line written clearly. Participants, Zhou Xian, Lin Long, Yi Qingtang. Apart from these three names, there were two other foreign disciples' names. Yi Qingtang suddenly looked up. Although she was looking at Lin Long's cold side profile, her heart was warm. Lin Long was also in Zhou Xian's sect mission, and probably already noticed that something was off. Thus, she chose to hand this file to Yi Qingtang. While Yi Qingtang was not afraid of any difficulties that Zhou Xian would make, it was inevitable that she would fall for Zhou Xian's schemes if she did not familiarize herself with the mission contents before going on the mission. Lin Long's move indeed resolved Yi Qingtang's urgent worries. Yi Qingtang's grip on the file tightened as she spoke to Lin Long gently. Thank you, senior sister Lin. Lin Long looked at Yi Qingtang without emotion and responded with an almost unnoticeable nod. Then, she returned her focus on the book in her hand. Yi Qingtang immediately walked to her table with a file in her hand, without forgetting to pinch the wolf's ears, which caused the wolf to shoot an annoyed glare at her. Yi Qingtang chuckled after having her way, and then focused on the mission file. The mission which the sect appointed to Zhou Xian, and the rest was to investigate the tragic case of the extermination of a family. Chapter 205. Every sect had many powerful forces which depended on them. These forces offered worships to the sect regularly, and the sect would give them protection. For the mission that Yi Qingtang and the rest were going on this time, they were to go to a mountain village, which was under Xianling sect's protection, Spirit Condensation Mountain Village. Spirit Condensation Mountain Village had attached itself to Xianling sect for a long time, and it had certain fame. It was considered a pretty good family clan. However, it was met with an unexpected calamity a month ago. In just a night, all 360 people in the village were murdered, and there was no clue left behind by the murderer. Spirit Condensation Mountain Village worshipped Xianling sect, and normal forces did not dare to massacre everyone in it. Now that the entire village was massacred within a night, it was as good as a slap in Xianling sect's face. Thus, Xianling sect had to send disciples to investigate the tragic case. Yi Qingtang frowned slightly. In her previous life, there was a hubbub about Spirit Condensation Mountain Village incident as well, but she had never heard that the killer was found. It was definitely not one man's doing to be able to massacre over 300 people in a night. Yi Qingtang read through the file detailedly and realized that the clues given were very vague. Apart from the information of the village master's family, there were simply no leads in this tragedy. Yi Qingtang memorized all the information on the file and returned it to Lin Long when Lin Long received the file back. She was a little surprised as she looked up at Yi Qingtang with a little suspicion. Yi Qingtang already finished looking through it in such a short time? Have you finished looking through it? Lin Long could not help but ask. Yi Qingtang nodded. Lin Long did not say anything further, and kept the file as though nothing happened at all, and she looked down at the book in her hand. Yi Qingtang knew that Lin Long was cold on the outside, but warm on the inside, and was unwilling to disturb her. Thus she went back to her area. All the disciples' missions were already allocated, and what was left was for them to make preparations. The new disciples were rather nervous since it was their first time to do a mission, and thus, they discussed for a long time. On Yi Qingtang's side, Lin Long did not like talking, and it was even more impossible for Zhou Xian to tell her anything. Hence, she was very free, and she took out a floating pagoda to nourish her spirit root. It had been a month since she entered the sect, and she clearly felt that her spirit root seemed to have become stronger. During the sect assessment, her spirit root had traces of making a breakthrough to an orange spirit root. In this 1 month, she already felt that her spirit root had gone through drastic changes quietly. Using the time when no one noticed, Yi Qingtang turned around and revealed the spirit root in her palm. A light shone. At that instant, the spirit root in her palm was covered by a large patch of orange, and there was only a tiny trace of red at the tip of the spirit root. Yi Qingtang saw that the spirit root was about to be upgraded to an orange color, and happiness filled her heart. She closed her hands, and the image of the spirit root faded away. A steadfast expression emerged in her smiling eyes. The sect was surging with spirit energy, and the rate of growth of her spirit root here was way faster than that when she was in Lin Town. In at most half a month, she was very certain that she could raise her spirit root to an orange spirit root. Yi Qingtang's eyes twinkled. She, who was focused on upgrading her spirit root, did not notice that when she revealed her spirit root just now, the silver wolf in the corner was watching everything. When it saw that the color of Yi Qingtang's spirit root was about to turn orange, a light flashed across its eyes silently. Chapter 206. The night was silent. The faint moonlight entered from the window and was cast on the silver wolf's body. In the silence, the silver wolf quietly stood up, and its slender limbs allowed it to jump up onto the bed easily. Its deep eyes landed on Yi Qingtang's face. A small black ball of fog emerged out from Yi Qingtang's chest. It wriggled a little out from the fluffy blanket and looked agitatedly at the mighty wolf above it. "Would-be father, have you finally come round? Are you finally going to sneak an attack on mother in the middle of the night?" The little black ball was so excited that its voice trembled unconsciously. It had already been some time since its would-be father came to its mother's side. However, The wolf just remained at his side without saying anything the whole day, and completely did not know how to get closer to its mother, which really worried it. The silver wolf swept a cold glare at the little black ball, which immediately hid in Yi Qingtang's arms. I am saying this all for your own good. Otherwise, when will you be able to have a baby with mother? Mumbled the little black ball softly. The silver wolf's gaze sharpened, but when its eyes landed on Yi Qingtang, the sharpness in its gaze quietly turned into a complicated expression. When it looked at Yi Qingtang's hands, which were lying outside the blanket, its brow was slightly raised. It could not help but recall the image of its body being carelessly touched all over by this pair of hands in the past few days. The silver wolf slightly shook its head and completely cleared that depressing image out of its mind. It slowly raised its paw and placed it on Yi Qingtang's abdomen lightly. A faint light from the silver wolf's paw slowly passed through the blanket and into Yi Qingtang's abdomen. Oh, would-be father, is this a special copulation method? The little black ball secretly peeked out from the blanket, and its eyes were dazzled with stars when it saw the silver wolf's affectionate action. The silver wolf froze as it cast a cold glance at the little black ball that said shocking things, wondering if it should squeeze the little black ball to death with a paw. Perhaps it was because of the fact that the silver wolf stiffened and the strength it exerted changed. Yi Qingtang suddenly felt a little uncomfortable. She opened her eyes sleepily and looked at the silver wolf standing on its bed with sleep in her eyes. The silver wolf did not expect Yi Qingtang to suddenly wake up and immediately froze. However, don't play around. Tired. Yi Qingtang, who was still drowsy from her sleep, did not even notice what the silver wolf had done to her. Her hands stretched out to hug and pressed down on the silver wolf's head while her slim legs flipped out from the blanket and laid across the silver wolf's body. With both her hands and legs, she directly hugged the furry silver wolf in her arms and even rubbed her head on the silver wolf's face in extreme satisfaction. Be good, let's sleep. The silver wolf was hugged tightly by Yi Qingtang's octopus-like position. With a slight trace of movement, Yi Qingtang, who was in her sleep, hugged it even more tightly instead. The silver wolf could not do anything. The little black ball still wanted to take a peek, but was hit by the silver wolf's paw. The silver wolf looked at Yi Qingtang's sleeping face, which was close at hand, and let out an almost inaudible sigh. It finally closed its eyes, and its body, intentionally or unintentionally, leaned against Yi Qingtang. The little black ball, which hid back into the heart of the demon god, trembled in excitement. Its would-be father and mother were finally sleeping on the same bed. Mother will be able to have a baby very soon. Heh, so exciting. Chapter 207. The preparation time for a sect mission was very short, and they had to set off the next morning. When Yi Qingtang woke up, she saw that the silver wolf, which was hugged tightly by her, was looking at her with a numb expression. Yi Qingtang was a little shocked, but very quickly, Yi Qingtang returned to her senses and changed her clothes nimbly. And that scene was on full display in front of a certain someone. The silver wolf's lips twitched slightly, and it instinctively looked away, although it acted to look at her carelessly. Too skinny. A little chubbier would be better. Yi Qingtang did not even notice the silver wolf's thoughts, and took her things after changing. She patted the silver wolf's head and said, "Wait for me to return obediently. I will ask senior brother Qin to help me feed you." After that, Yi Qingtang left the room without waiting for the silver wolf to react. She did think of bringing the silver wolf on the mission with her, but because this mission was specially prepared for her, Yi Qingtang did not dare to risk bringing the silver wolf. After leaving her dorm, Yi Qingtang only felt that her body was exceptionally light today, and that the abdomen area where her spirit root was emitting a faint warmth. It was a very interesting feeling. Could it be that the spirit root is about to break through? Yi Qingtang was very curious as well. She obviously felt that she still needed half a month's time. But why was it that her spirit root had traces of a breakthrough after just one night of sleep? Without thinking any more, Yi Qingtang immediately went to look for Qin Huan to ask him to look after the silver wolf on her behalf during this period of time. Afterward, she left the sect. Outside the sect, many teams were already gathered. Some teams had already set off. Yi Qingtang saw Lin Long's figure from a distance away and immediately walked in that direction. Senior Sister Lin. Yi Qingtang greeted. Lin Long nodded slightly, and her eyes stopped on Yi Qingtang for a while. She had a feeling that the aura around Yi Qingtang was a little different today, but she could not point out the difference at the moment. Right at that instant, Yi Qingtang heard noisy footsteps and a sarcastic voice. Senior Brother Zhou, why must you bring a useless new disciple on this mission? I think that this group of new disciples don't know anything at all. Even if we bring them, they will just be a burden. How about you rethink it? A disciple who looked about 20 years old was beside Zhou Xian, and he mumbled in dissatisfaction. Zhou Xian came right after. Other than the person who spoke just now, there was another disciple who was appointed this mission beside Zhou Xian. Zhou Xian's eyes quickly landed on Yi Qingtang, as though he completely did not notice what the junior brother beside him meant. He said with a smile, she would require a certain amount of training as a new disciple anyway. Since we are senior brothers, we should take care of her. Moreover, this little junior sister's spirit root is not good. If I don't invite her, other new disciples might not be willing to go on a mission together with a red spirit root. Red spirit root? It can't be. Those two disciples were shocked when they heard the 3 words red spirit root. A new disciple was already useless enough, and it turned out she was still a red spirit root? Was that not the same as a useless piece of trash? Zhou Xian's voice was neither loud nor soft, but it was enough for Yi Qingtang and Lin Long to hear clearly. When Zhou Xian finished his sentence, he already appeared in front of Yi Qingtang. Yi Qingtang's lips curled into a sneer. Really, thank you for worrying, Senior Brother Zhou. Chapter 208. Zhou Xian chuckled. Of course. Since we are from the same sect, I will definitely be worried about you. A cold light thoughtlessly flashed across his eyes when he finished speaking. However, the other 2 disciples became even more dissatisfied upon hearing Zhou Xian's words. Sect missions were different from rewarded missions. If rewarded missions were a failure, the disciples would lose some time at most, and would not receive any other punishments. However, if it was a mission appointed by the sect, it had to be completed. Otherwise, the disciples would be reprimanded by the warden and punished correspondingly once they returned to the sect. Thus, participating disciples were exceptionally meticulous when they were doing sect missions, as they were feared that a failed mission would negatively affect themselves and the sect. Those 2 disciples sized up Yi Qingtang. Apart from her beautiful face, they despised everything else about Yi Qingtang. Junior Sister Yi, it's been a month since you entered the sect. Have you been cultivating hard? Are you familiar with the basics of the Xiantian swordplay already? A disciple asked meanly. He did not care about Zhou Xian's reasons for adding this new disciple into the team, and was only concerned about whether he could complete his mission. The young girl before him looked weak, and did not look like she had the ability to complete the mission. Even if such a person followed them, not putting in any effort was the greatest contribution already. If she was a hindrance in their investigation, it would really be a big problem. How could Yi Qingtang not hear the harshness in the person's words? She was very clear that all of this was intentionally created by Zhou Xian. These disciples may not know about Zhou Xian's objectives, but they hated her because of Zhou Xian's words. Even if she had an accidental death in the mission, these 2 disciples would probably not even ask about it. Yi Qingtang sneered in her heart, and a sharp look flashed across her eyes as she looked at Zhou Xian's face, of which he concealed his mocking expression. I am asking you a question, did you hear me? As a junior sister, how dare you ignore a senior brother's question? Do you have any manners? That disciple who did not hear Yi Qingtang's reply immediately frowned unhappily, and instinctively wanted to grab her shoulder. A smile passed by Zhou Xian's eyes when he saw the disciple, making things difficult for Yi Qingtang. These 2 junior brothers were specially selected out from the outer sect by him. They had an arrogant and self-conceited nature. Even if he did not openly do anything to Yi Qingtang would already be troubled just by the two's verbal attacks. However, as that disciple stretched his hand out, Yi Qingtang suddenly looked up. Her eyes were obviously smiling, but the coldness in her eyes caused his hand to freeze in midair. He did not know why either, but he felt as though he fell into an ice cellar when he was stared at by her. "Senior brother, you're caring too much." Yi Qingtang scoffed. If you don't want to do the mission, then get lost quickly. Stop wasting time here." Lin Long, who had remained silent all along, suddenly walked up to stand before Yi Qingtang and looked at the troublemaking disciples coldly. That disciple saw Lin Long standing in front of him with a cold expression and was taken aback immediately. Fear flashed across his eyes as he said rather guiltily, Senior Sister Lin." Chapter 209. Lin Long's sudden speech shocked Zhou Xian, who was waiting for the drama to ensue. He stood up and spoke in a tone different from the arrogant one he was using when talking to Yi Qingtang. "Junior Sister Lin is right. It is time for us to set off now as well. The other teams have already left. If we continue being like this here, we would really waste time." Zhou Xian spoke so righteously, but little did anyone know that everything that happened before was all part of his plan. The only thing that surprised him was that Lin Long, who had always been cold and aloof, suddenly spoke up for Yi Qingtang. Lin Long looked at Zhou Xian coldly, and then turned around to walk down the path to heaven. With Lin Long's warning, the other disciples did not dare to waste any more time then, and walked down the path to heaven, after giving Yi Qingtang an annoyed look. Zhou Xian walked slightly slower. After the three of them were a distance away, he walked past Yi Qingtang and said in a volume that only the two of them could hear, "Yi Qingtang, I remember your kindness for treating my younger brother Zhou Chu that way previously." Yi Qingtang narrowed her eyes, and her lips tugged up into a seeming smile. "So that good-for-nothing Zhou Chu is actually senior brother Zhou's younger brother." Once he heard the words good-for-nothing, Zhou Xian's face darkened immediately. He glared at Yi Qingtang with fury in his eyes. "Good for nothing? You are a red spirit root trash. What right do you have to call others good for nothing?" Yi Qingtang's smile deepened. She tilted her head as she casually glanced down at the sword hung on Zhou Xian's waist. "What a pity. Your younger brother can't even crawl up after being beaten by me. A red spirit root. You." Zhou Xian's expression changed. Yi Qingtang suddenly looked up, and her clear eyes directly met with Zhou Xian's. He is clearly a disciple who cultivated for many years in the Fist faction, but had to lay in bed for days after being beaten by me. A new disciple who just entered the sect for a few days. Senior brother Zhou, in your opinion, how would I dare to snatch the title of being a good-for-nothing from your younger brother? Zhou Xian's face turned blue. He originally thought that Yi Qingtang would not dare to be too insolent after he established an imposing air for himself. Yet, it was as though this woman's mouth was full of poison, and every sentence she said hit him right in the heart. "Yi Qingtang, the days ahead are long. Don't say that I didn't remind you. There are many dangers in sect missions. You better take good care of yourself." Zhou Xian left her a sentence coldly and walked down the path to heaven, unwilling to waste time talking to Yi Qingtang, who had the gift of gab. Yi Qingtang looked at Zhou Xian's back view with a seeming smile, and looked down to hide the murderous expression which emerged in her eyes for a second. Take good care of yourself? Only that, the one who needed to take good care themselves was not her but Zhou Xian. A murderous smile hung on her lips as she walked down the path to heaven casually. How could a devil from hell be offended by an ordinary person as he pleased? At the same time, after Yi Qingtang just left, Qin Huan remembered what Yi Qingtang entrusted him with, and prepared a plate full of beef as an offering to the wolf which Yi Qingtang baited. However, once Qin Huan walked into Yi Qingtang's room, he was immediately dumbfounded to see an empty room. There was not a trace of the wolf. Where's the wolf? In a moment, Qin Huan felt as though the sky was going to fall. Yi Qingtang just left, but the silver wolf disappeared already. If Yi Qingtang returned after finishing her mission, wouldn't he? Before he finished his sentence, he felt a gush of cold air from behind him. Wife of a bandit chief? A rather low voice suddenly sounded behind Musu. Once Musu heard that voice, happiness filled him. He turned around and saw Han Songming, whom he had been away from for a long time, standing behind him in his attractive human form. Musu almost burst out crying there and then. Your Highness, you're back. Musu wiped a bitter tear away, and was only this close from hugging Han Kangming's leg. However, there was a strange look on Han Kangming's face. His cold eyes slowly looked at Musu, and he said softly, "What did you say just now?" Chapter 211. With that said, Musu's legs suddenly turned jelly. What did he say? He actually said that His Highness was a wife of a bandit chief? And it was even heard by His Highness. There was no way he would get by the days. Your Highness, listen to my explanation. Musu really was about to cry as he looked at Han Songming. Had he known that His Highness would appear at that time, he would definitely not dare to ramble on randomly, even if everyone lent him their courage. Your Highness, why did you not appear earlier nor later but right at that time? Did you really not appear to torture me on purpose? Musu was still thinking about how to make His Highness pardon him from death, but he noticed that Han Kangming's eyes did not even stay on him at all. They looked right over him, and at the little figure, which was riding away in the opposite direction. Is His Highness looking at Lady Yi? Musu's heart shook. He faintly sensed that the eyes that His Highness were looking at Yi Qingtang with were a little different from their initial coldness. Could it be that towards Lady Yi, His Highness really developed feelings after spending time together? In this half a month? Your Highness, are you feeling better? Musu asked cautiously. Han Songming turned into animal form previously, because of the surge of the aura of the evil. Now that he could return back into a human form, it seemed that there should not be any big problems anymore. It is all right, Han Songming replied. Musu heaved a sigh of relief, but did not dare to speak carelessly again, as he was afraid that Han Songming would behead him once he remembered what he said about being the wife of the bandit chief. On the other side, Yi Qingtang was on their way to Spirit Condensation Mountain Village with Lin Long and the rest. After a long day of traveling, the group stopped their journey as night fell. They lit a fire in a forest by the road and rested. Senior Brother Zhou, the village master of Spirit Condensation Mountain Village, is skilled, and there are a large number of highly skilled people in the village protecting the village. How could it disappear just like that? A disciple could not help but question, after pondering about the case. Zhou Xian replied, "This is hard to say. With over 300 people dying in a night, it was impossible for the surrounding people to not know of such a big commotion. Furthermore, that entire area is under the influence of Spirit Condensation Mountain Village. If there was anything, the people outside the mountain village would definitely not sit still and do nothing. However, the report to the sect did not mention this. I think perhaps the other party might have poisoned them in secret." Over 300 people were killed in a night in Spirit Condensation Mountain Village, and it could be said that the amount of blood within the village could form a river. Yet no one outside the sect realized it, and this was a little strange. People nearby Spirit Condensation Mountain Village had investigated the matter before as well, but there was still no clue. Hence, they had no choice but to request Xianling's sect for help. Could it be a vendetta? Can't be sure. Zhou Xian and the two other disciples chatted by the fire. Lin Long had a quiet personality, and thus, she only sat at a side while reading the file without saying anything at all. And because of what Zhou Xian deliberately said previously, the other two disciples disliked Yi Qingtang. On the journey, they were unwilling to speak to Yi Qingtang, and treated her as though she did not exist. During the conversation, Zhou Xian purposely looked up casually at Yi Qingtang, who made her own fire, and his lips formed into a sneer. Yi Qingtang, cherish your limited days left. Once we reach Spirit Condensation Mountain Village, I will bury you together with those 300 dead souls in the village. Chapter 212. On the journey, Zhou Xian made things difficult for Yi Qingtang both covertly and overtly, but never really attacked her. He merely used words to lead the two disciples who were dissatisfied with Yi Qingtang's spirit route to give Yi Qingtang some attitude, although she completely ignored their sarcastic and discriminating gazes. Very obviously, Zhou Xian did not plan to attack Yi Qingtang on the road. Although they left Xianling's sect, killing off a fellow disciple would require a safe and sound opportunity. Zhou Xian was not willing to let others have something on him. Thus, his target had been locked on the Spirit Condensation Mountain Village from the very start. There was the main field for him to deal with Yi Qingtang. After an arduous journey, the 5 people finally reached Spirit Condensation Mountain Village. Plants were flattened on a tall mountain, and there were houses situated from the foot of the mountain all the way to the peak. This entire mountain was under Spirit Condensation Mountain Village's possession, and everyone who resided there was a part of forces affiliated to Spirit Condensation Mountain Village. With one look, one could see that there were hundreds of families living there. Yi Qingtang and the rest had just reached the foot of the mountain, but their Xianling sect uniform attracted the attention of the people nearby the mountain village. In no time, an old man and a handsome young man approached them quickly. "Sorry for not coming ahead to welcome you, as we were unaware of your arrival. Do pardon us." That elderly lifted his clothes and knelt before the 5 teenagers on horses, without caring about seniority. The young man beside the elderly immediately followed the elderly, and knelt with his head hung low as well. Similarly, the surrounding citizens knelt down earnestly in awe and respect on both sides of the Xianling sect disciples. The reverence of a sect was simply not what a normal person could offend. In the eyes of ordinary citizens, those who entered a sect were mighty figures standing on top of the clouds, holy and could not be infringed. Zhou Xian and the rest had been in the sect for a long time, and were already used to such a grand greeting. This was how noble a sect disciple was in the eyes of normal people. Moreover, Spirit Condensation Mountain Village was originally reliant on Xianling sect, and thus the people were even more reverent towards them. "Rise. We are ordered here to investigate the tragedy in Spirit Condensation Mountain Village. Which of you is the current person in charge?" Zhou Xian, who was sitting on a horse, glanced across the group of people before him. That old man slowly rose and stepped forward. "I was originally the apothecary of Spirit Condensation Mountain Village, and am considered the person in charge of this place right now. This is..." He raised his hand and pointed to the silent young man beside him. "This is the adopted stepson of the village master Wu Zheng. We have been waiting for you all for a long time. Please do us, Spirit Condensation Mountain Village, justice." "Of course," Zhou Xian replied proudly. "You all must be worn out from the journey. We have already prepared food and drinks. You all can dismount and rest for a while understanding the situation here," the apothecary said respectfully. Zhou Xian nodded slightly. After exchanging a look with the other disciples, he immediately dismounted and headed to their destination with the company of the apothecary and Wu Zheng. Yi Qingtang walked beside Lin Long at the tail of the team and looked at the surrounding citizens' faces casually. Perhaps it was because a bloody massacre happened. Fear and uneasiness were prevalent in the citizens' eyes, though they faked a calm front. Only after they saw Yi Qingtang and the others did that look of uneasiness fade away slowly, though their ash-pale faces were enough to prove the trepidation they felt over the past few days. Chapter 212. 1. Spirit Condensation Mountain Village. 2. The apothecary brought the 5 of them to their destination. The uneasy citizens lingered outside the door and were not willing to leave. Their fear seemed to finally dissipate only when they were standing close to these sect disciples. What exactly happened to Spirit Condensation Mountain Village? Zhou Xian questioned straight to the point after sitting down. Although he wanted to make use of this chance to get rid of Yi Qingtang, he did not forget the mission he was tasked to as well. Otherwise, even if he killed Yi Qingtang, he would still be punished by the sect should he not complete the mission. Furthermore, he did not think that killing Yi Qingtang would be difficult. After hearing the question, the apothecary could not help but sigh heavily. This is a long story. That day was our village master's 50th birthday celebration. There were many guests that night, and the celebration finally ended at midnight. After a whole day of labor, everyone was tired by nighttime and went to rest after sending the guests off. However, no one would have thought that an accident happened that very night. Yi Qingtang listened from aside quietly. What the apothecary said was the same as the information mentioned in the sect file, and there were no special clues. Can you bring us to look at the situation in Spirit Condensation Mountain Village first? Zhou Xian wanted to continue questioning, yet Yi Qingtang suddenly requested to take a look at the scene of the accident. He frowned displeasingly, but on second thought, they had to inspect the scene as well. Thus he did not say anything. The apothecary replied, "Sure. We did not dare to touch anything in the mountain village, so that you all can inspect the scene closely when you all are here." Then, the apothecary stood up and led the group towards Spirit Condensation Mountain Village along with Wu Zheng. Zhou Xian and the other two disciples took a step first and walked at the front. Rather, it was Lin Long who intentionally or unintentionally walked at a speed which coincidentally matched with Yi Qingtang's pace, and was walking right beside Yi Qingtang. Yi Qingtang had noticed this long ago when they were still on the road. Senior sister Lin always instinctively maintained the same pace as her. And even if they were in a hurry, senior sister Lin was never too far away from her. Although Yi Qingtang did not talk much to this cold senior sister during the journey, Yi Qingtang noticed Lin Long's subtle actions. Yi Qingtang had a feeling that Lin Long seemed to have sensed that Zhou Xian was going to harm Yi Qingtang, which caused her to keep maintaining a close distance with her on purpose. To this, Yi Qingtang felt an inexpressible warmth. In her previous life, Lin Long was also like this. She didn't talk much normally, and had a detached personality, but would lend a hand at critical times. As she pondered, they had already reached the main entrance of Spirit Condensation Mountain Village. Before entering the door to the mountain village, they saw large patches of blood flowing out from under the door. The blood had already dried, but the strong blood smell traveled into their noses along with the wind. Contrasting against the black door, the blood which seeped under the door was like a giant tongue of a demon. This is it. However, please be mentally prepared. The situation inside is not too good, reminded the apothecary before he opened the door. Zhou Xian frowned a little, obviously not putting the apothecary's words to heart. It was merely a bloody scene. He had gone on many missions before. How would he have seen little of such situations? Open the door, Zhou Xian said. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.